again, friends.
Jesus Christ.
And you are our friends. We brought out the real organ today. Welcome to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru. We'll be talking about a lot of organs here today on the show. We have a lot of things happening in AEW pay-per-view from London, as well as assault and battery, attempted murder, and so many other things to talk about. It's an action-packed show here this week, and here he is. I'm the host, by the way, the great Brian Last. And here he is, Mr.
Good
Jim
God.
Cornette.
Gee, just get, oh, for heaven's sake. You know, when you started out with the slow version, where you actually, the slower you go, the more it seems like you hit real notes, but it was like the build up to Hotel California in concert, where it's even, it was, and then it got into the thing, and then suddenly you screamed at me and perpetrated my eardrums.
Oh, come on, give me a break.
With your, hello, friend, they're not your friends. What kind of friend are you to go screaming in people's faces, Brian Last? Did you walk down the street and just get up in somebody's face? Hello, friend! The fuck? Can you, hello, friends? Or hello, friends?
All
See,
right.
you can do the hello two different ways.
Well, these are wonderful suggestions that perhaps I will apply at some point, not now.
Brian,
Friends.
have you ever, friend, countryman of mine, have you ever seen a skunk chase a deer?
No, that'd be a new one.
I am sending you a video. Stacy's emailing it to me, and I'm going to email it to you. She tried to tweet it, but it wouldn't let her tweet it or whatever. I don't know how these things work. But again, last night, the motion sensor light in the backyard goes off. And Stace looks out the window. She grabs her phone and videos it. That Sputnik the skunk is back. And remember, I told you, because we got a semi-decent look at him. It was in a darker area. But I said he's got a lot of white on him. Turns out this skunk, from toe to tip of tail, has got to be 3 feet long, easily. It's a big-ass skunk, and its whole head is white, a big white stripe going down its back, and its whole tail is white. It's more of a white skunk than it is. The black is on the underneath. I have never seen a skunk like this in my life, and it is facing off with one of the deer, one of the Bundy family. And I think it's one of the little ones, I believe. There was none of the others around for reference, and it was still dark, but the deer would look at it and it would run like a couple of steps toward the deer, and the deer would turn a giant circle and hop back and look and be scared, but it was chasing the deer.
Did it
Well,
spray?
I see that you
Did it spray? It's a notorious and infamous skunk spray?
No, because it was just advancing and was not being threatened because the deer was running away from it. It has to turn around. It was advancing head first. It has to turn around to spray.
So when I'm driving around and I smell the skunk, like, do skunks, if they get run over, do they release their toxic aroma? Do they?
Well, wouldn't you?
I don't know. I don't know how it works. I don't know if it has to be a conscious thing, like, all right, it's time to spray this shit here. But
no, if it gets run over by a car, whatever's in there is getting released in some fashion or another. All over the concrete. But what are you laughing at? A poor squashed skunk? What kind of sadist are you?
The last skunk I heard about in a car accident was Vince McMahon on the Merritt Parkway. That hair.
Well, and he's got that fucking streak in his hair, so. But nevertheless, the point is, if they are threatened, if they're threatened or they're backed in a corner, or something happens that they feel in danger, they will let loose with that shit. And I think there's another reason also, because we had a family years ago living under the walk in the back. We were going to get rid of just the one, but then we saw the little babies. And everyone, we just started closing the bedroom window. It was springtime because they would just let loose with that for summer. I don't know if they were threatened or just marking their territory, but this fucking skunk ain't taking shit off anybody. This deer's 3 times as tall as he is, except if he was to stand up on his back legs and go, rawr, then that'd be an impressive looking fucking skunk. I wonder if he crossbred with something.
With what?
Well, one of these other crossbred things. You don't know about these interspecies situations. We could have
Landon?
it could have been Landon. Landon was more skunk than he was human. It could be one of these chupacabra things.
You know, the other day I was going through some of my files, and there's a Sputnik Monroe file, but next to that there are just various files of various Monroes. And, you know, Flash Monroe without the blonde streak, it's not the same thing. Not the same thing at all.
There was Rocket Monroe, there was Flash Monroe. Bubba Monroe was actually right. Sputnik's son. And he ended up, his greater fame in wrestling was being Jerry Jarrett's limo driver when Jarrett had that limousine.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting.
Yes. Bubba Monroe was he was the driver the night that Jarrett almost put fucking Bill Dundee out and made him right up front.
What happened?
From running over the people with I may have told the story, but again, we've got so many kids. They had the big 10-man tag team match in Memphis at the Mid-South Coliseum, and the big crowd, and there's there to see the babyface team was Jerry Lawler, Stan and Steve, the Fabulous Ones, Jackie Fargo, and Bill Superstar Dundee. And I can't remember Jimmy Hart's first family play, you know, like Ken Patera was probably on the other heel side, or Ventura may have been in that, whoever the fuck it was. But all the baby faces get to grand entrance. And of course, Lawler, that was probably, I think, a night he might have come out on a horse again. I can't remember what he did. And the Fabs and Fargo came out in Jerry Jarrett's limousine, as they did oftentimes. Dundee wanted to come out riding his motorcycle. And he gets revved up in that long aisleway that they would, you know, down ringside and all the way to the back that people have seen in the Mid-South Coliseum footage. It's, you know, to the ring was 100, 125 feet, 150 feet easy, maybe more. I might even be underestimated. My God. And he's going to come out, and as soon as he comes down that aisleway, the people are screaming and rum, and they're playing the song Wipeout, the motorcycle music, right? And as soon as they got to Wipeout, he did. When he got to ringside, the spotlight got in his eyes, and he was going too fast, and he hit fucking spilled Coca-Cola. And all the heels that aren't in the match, including me, are watching from the back, and it looked like that he just went down and slid sideways. And then you see people jump up, and it like, how many did he take out? Oh my God. Jarrett shit himself in the back. Come to find that a bunch of people jumped up, and like, I think a few stood on their seats, and he didn't actually mow anybody down, but it looked like a goddamn scene of mayhem, right? For a second. And of course, Lawler and the Fabs are dying laughing. And so they had the match. Nobody got hurt. They had the match. Everything's fine. But Dundee had ridden with Jerry Jarrett down from Hendersonville, from Nashville, in the limousine. And Jerry Jarrett wouldn't let him ride in the back. He made him ride up front with Bubba Monroe.
Oh, wow.
And they get like, the story I heard was they got past Jackson. Then it's like 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And Dundee made Bubba pull over the side of the road, and he got out and he walked back that long stretch limousine, and he starts knocking on the door. Come on, little man, let me in. Come on, I'm sorry.
He called him Little Man?
Everybody called Jarrett Little Man. That was since when Roy let him take over Memphis, it was Little Man. It was a term of endearment.
If you had been shooting ringside still, obviously this is a year after you started managing, would you have been wiped out? Like, where would you have been?
No, I'd have been nowhere near Dundee riding a motorcycle indoors. So I'd have been the last person that got run over. I took pictures one day. They shot that video of him riding down the hill in Jerry Jarrett's fucking giant 100-acre backyard on the
ridiculous
motorcycle.
video. Yeah, it had a bad reputation. It's just him riding his motorcycle up and down hills.
Yeah. And that's why I wasn't about to fucking let him be near me on a motorcycle indoors. But what were we talking about?
We were talking about Bubba Monroe and the Monroes, Flash Monroe,
the Monroes, all the Monroes, not the Monroes that work here, the Monroe brothers, Alf and Ralph, but because the family that was spawned by Sputnik, because he was so over, he needed brothers, and
really is the most genius name. Marilyn Monroe was in the middle of actually her run as being one of the biggest, most glamorous stars in the world. He takes that and Sputnik, which was in the news.
But now hold on. Monroe was his legitimate middle name. You know that,
I didn't know that. I did not know that. No.
Roscoe Monroe Brumbaugh.
I knew Roscoe Brumbaugh. Did not know Monroe was his actual middle name. Wow.
So but he was working before he got Sputnik. In Alabama, he was working as Elvis Rock Monroe.
Elvis and Rock at the same time.
Yes. Well, because Rock from Roscoe, Rock Brumbaugh had been a thing. He went through a variety of names. Many of the fans called him many more.
I'm sure there'll be lots more to learn about Sputnik Monroe in the future that we'll let people know about. But
yes, a good tease. And it'll be about another week or so, and we'll start making those announcements.
Well, Jim, speaking of announcements, we always like to announce that there's a home and a place for people to go to find the finest Jim Cornette merchandise. It just so happens to be JimCornette.com.
Yes, there is, and yes, it is. And while they last, the thank you, fuck you, bye shirts are on clearance at half price. I announced that last week, and people have already been going crazy over it. And I've got Hotchkiss on another project, and I don't know where the fuck we're at with those. So if you want one for half price while they last, go there now, JimCornette.com. The new 8x10 photos of me might be up by now. I'm not sure. We've got this big project we're going to talk about next week. So just go there and buy things now while they are available, and then new things are coming in the future. JimCornette.com.
That's right, JimCornette.com and Cornette's Collectibles. Stay tuned for more information. But Jim, there's been a story this week that we have to talk about here at the top of the show, and I thought the big thing this week would be just reviewing the AEW pay-per-view, knowing that they typically go somewhere between 8 and 45 hours.
Yeah.
Figured there'd be a lot of things to talk about. But I woke up to a bunch of people sending me footage, and to this point right now, it hasn't stopped. I don't know if I've ever seen something that didn't take place in WWE that was big, or like CM Punk showing up in AEW. I don't know if I've ever seen the reaction from the listeners to a story, and this is the story of someone most of us had not really heard of before. Raja Jackson, the son of Rampage Jackson, the legendary mixed martial artist and UFC fighter, and an appearance, I don't even know if that's what we call it. There may be more appearances coming in the future. But,
yes, I think some of them will be mandatory.
But he was at a show in Southern California, I believe, or at least in California, called Knox Wrestling or Championship Wrestling. Let's talk about this story.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, because you can't even really explain to people who, if you've lived under a rock and haven't heard about this, we'll try to go over what happened, but like you said, the attention, because it just came out of nowhere, and it's not even, it's really incidental, and it's about wrestling. It's just about this celebrity MMA fighter's moron son that, commits attempted murder after admitting that he's going to do it, then does it, and his own cameraman shoots it and streams it to the world. So that kind of, was one of those things that tripped everybody's trigger. Before we delve into this any further, because it is related to wrestling, the summation in all of this is that I think that Raja Jackson needs to go to prison for quite some time. where he can contemplate the choices he's made in his life. So I'm not absolving him of any responsibility for being a fucking lunatic. But everybody involved in this at some level is an idiot, unprofessional. Situation shouldn't have been even allowed to happen. And it's just an example of why that I am so goddamn disgusted with the wrestling business, both at a major level and at the small time level, the Outlaw Mud Show level. And the only good person that I can see in this, or that actually more than good, the only sane, rational human being that did anything right was the guy, and I forgot his name now because I've never heard any of these people, but the guy that pulled Raja off of the guy that he was trying to kill.
Oh, his name was Doug something. I just saw an interview with him. He came across like a stand-up guy.
Well, and again, if you Google any report about this thing, it'll have all these people's names. But here's the problem. Here's the multitude of problems. We may be here for a minute. None of this should have ever taken place. What the people saw, apparently this, not only Raja Jackson, but his father does it too. They just wander around their daily life with somebody next to them with a fucking camera phone broadcasting them taking a shit, making coleslaw. I don't know what the fuck. Why are they just sitting around on camera on the internet? These people, what's happened?
They're trying to make money.
How is this?
They try to make money with it.
How would you make money? What the fuck?
They're making content. They're influencers. I don't know who they're influencing.
The content that I saw was either this guy, Raja, standing around fucking cutting incoherent promos and raving about shit, or his father, Rampage, was sitting with some other guy watching something that we couldn't fucking see.
Look, I don't know how many people are watching it, but this was a live stream to an audience that apparently was giving him feedback after the initial confrontation, egging him along, and he was telling them, yeah, I'm going to do something.
Okay, but this is news to me that people would just walk around with a camera broadcasting their, walking down the street. Oh, I wonder if there's a place to take a piss around here type of day. And that anybody would give a shit to watch it. So that's the first thing. So these people are fucked up. So then, apparently, Knox Pro Wrestling, which is at least in name owned by Rikishi, and it's allegedly a wrestling school. More on that in a minute. But they're having a show. And again, Rikishi wasn't there, and I don't know, is this one of those things where a lot of guys own wrestling schools and a lot of guys just, it's Sam Smith's wrestling school and somebody else pays Sam Smith to say that? I don't know what's going on. It looks like there's a family involvement, which may mean that, it's been the Samoan family tradition. When one of the guys does well, he spreads the wealth around that rest of the family. So did he buy a brother-in-law wrestling school? I don't fucking know. But they're doing a show. And one of the wrestlers, the guy in the cowboy hat, the dick that the hero of the piece is blaming for stirring all this shit up. What's his name? Do you remember his name?
I had never seen or heard of him before. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember.
Cowboy hat fella. There's a guy walking around wearing a cowboy hat. He knows Raja Jackson. And he has Raja Jackson, the son of Quentin Rampage Jackson, come to the show to hang out with him. And he brings him to, oh, goddamn. The dressing room was a parking lot with a tent behind some cars. And, hey, you know what? I've been on some low budget propositions before. And, in the various training centers that I've been involved in or fucking spot shows or whatever. But it's a bunch of guys. Honestly, it's a bunch of fucking guys that do this for fun on the fucking weekends, sitting around in lawn chairs next to a tent in a fucking parking lot, joining a building where they're having a wrestling show where what was the crowd, Brian? Was there 50 people? Did they have room to get 50 people in there?
It was a small building and a small crowd. I don't know how many.
Okay. And this promotion, because Rikishi owns it, or it's the family thing, I'm sure they got a favor deal. They have one of those WWE ID affiliations, or they did. More on that in a moment. But it's, I can tell by the guys and the manner of which was going on. This is a bunch of guys that do this for fun on the fucking weekends. If anybody thinks they're going to fucking be a star off of this proposition, because number one, the guy that is Psycho Stu, who again, he did nothing stupid, maybe ignorant to the business, isn't a reason to have your head bashed in while you're unconscious. Don't even know it's happening. But he's sitting there when Roger Jackson walks up and is talking to some of the other guys, and he sees, I guess, whoever the guy was filming him. And apparently the story is, and the video backs it up, that he thought they were doing an angle or shooting something or working something. So he wants to get in on it, and he gets up and comes up and, I don't know, Brian, you couldn't really hear what they said. It didn't last long, but he didn't challenge the guy. Oh, you don't know me? No, I don't know you. I'm Psycho Stu. He was trying to get on camera, and he picks up one of the empty beer cans. They're drinking before the show. And also this guy, and I'm going to say this, he's a veteran, Psycho Stu. They said that he did this to deal with his PTSD, but I also saw somebody say that he's been there for like 10 years. So there's guys like that everybody knows them, everybody likes them in the school. They're eccentric. Sometimes even in the territories, Mike Sharp used to take 20 showers a day. But they're a little different, or they don't quite pick up on it. But apparently Stu picks up one of the empty beer cans and hits the guy over the head with it, Raja, who doesn't sell it because he's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And then Stu says, you ain't going to sell it? He didn't know what the fuck's even going on. And I saw one report said, well, it was a gimmicked beer can. There's no such thing as a gimmick beer can, idiots. It's just an empty beer can. You're not going to kill somebody with this, hit them like that. It's just one of these stupid hardcore things that fat guys who play wrestler on the weekends think is cool from ECW, because Sandman used to do it. You just hit the fucking guy. It hurts. It might cut you if you get him right, but it's not going to. But the point is, he hits the guy with the beer can, and Raja is like, what the fuck is this? And he starts to bow up. And Brian, then one of the Samoan bloodline family was that he looked like Alpha the Samoan if he was dehydrated. I don't know who this fucking guy is.
Someone told me it was the Black Pearl, who I believe is actually the son of Alpha and Sika's older brother, but I'm not certain. But that's what I was told by someone.
I don't know, but he looks like he's 100. And I guess he's supposed to be the veteran, or in some way, is he an official person here? He's the one who stands up. You know, brother, he's not a worker. He's not a worker. Here's another thing. Nobody that's actually a worker just says to people, or they didn't used to, not till everybody thinks they're smart when they come into wrestling school because they're already internet smart. But you would say he's not a worker, he's a kayfabe. He's not with it, whatever, but he's not a worker. We didn't call each other workers to begin with. We were working and we were workers, but to each other, we didn't say, hi, fellow worker. They're all fucking internet smart. So dehydrated Alpha gets up and tries to cool him down, and the cowboy hat guy comes in, and I think he was there getting in the middle of that, right? But then apparently they talk him down, and they tell Stu, no, this guy, he's not shooting an angle. He doesn't know what the fuck you're doing. And they tell the dehydrated Alpha tells Raja, oh, yeah, he think we're always working. We're always working here. He thought we were working. Have I described this so far like it actually stupidly happened, Brian?
Yeah, and also you brought up this is all outside. This is the middle of the day, so the sun's just...
It looks like they're hiding behind 3 or 4 parked cars next to a tent in some chairs with a fucking table full of beer cans.
Your first thought isn't they're backstage at a wrestling show.
No.
So yeah, the confrontation happens. Apparently, Psycho Sue was alerted that this wasn't a worker, this wasn't an angle or whatever he thought, and he apologized or tried to make amends several times, and those are on camera.
Yes, and the guy even finally said, okay, we're cool. But then they have a brilliant idea, a wonderfully, brilliantly evil idea. They come up and they tell Stu, well, we're going to make something out of it. Make something out of what? What the fuck? Suddenly people are going to descend on this location to buy tickets to see what the fuck? It's wrong on so many levels. Nobody knows who any of these people are except Roger Jackson, who wandered into this, and he's a goddamn mental case if we haven't mentioned that. And what the hero of the piece that saved Stu later on,
Doug Mallow, apparently is his name.
Doug Mallow claims in a podcast that Cowboy Hat fellow didn't like Stu and wound up Raja Jackson, and somehow the promotion, aka Dehydrated Alpha, decides to go along with this by putting Raja Jackson in a spot in the match where he's going to leave the front row of ringside and go in and tackle Psycho Stu and get his receipt back. And the cowboy hat guy is on camera explaining, I told you what a receipt is, right? And again, and there's so many of these fucking goofy, smart mark, internet smart, alleged fans, alleged experts, MMA fans, whatever, that just think that they know all the terminology and they're so goddamn with it. As Frank Spaceman Hickey would say, with it, not with it. He was just going to get, that's his receipt. You fucking idiot. A receipt is when somebody's careless and fucking throws a kick to your chest and kicks you in the fucking lip and gives you a bloody lip. And when you grab them in a fucking headlock and you goddamn take your knuckle and you fucking pap them on the fucking cheek or something like, go motherfucker. Or one of those, Vader Hansen type of receipts where they just club you on the side of the fucking head once to wake you up. Or whatever, but not goddamn attempted murder and intentional brain damage. But all of these every wrestler on this show, apparently, with the exception of Doug, is internet smart. And they're all a bunch, and this guy wound them up to where they have this guy come in and do a fucking spot on poor old Stu, who may very well be psycho. Maybe he was drinking. Maybe he's just not that bright. Again, not an excuse for attempted murder. And somehow this passes by the chain of command in this goddamn flea market they're running out there, where this is all okay. And then finally, now the Raja Jackson is sitting in the front row with his camera guy in Stu's match, waiting for his spot. And he's saying, they told me to go in there and take him down and hit him. Well, I'm going to hit him as many times as I can before they pull him off of me. You watch and see. And he's predicating and admitting in advance to everything he's about to do. And he's broadcasting it. And then, wouldn't you know who won the pony? When his time comes, he goes in there, double leg dives the guy, snaps him down. If the guy didn't hit the back of his head and was still conscious after the first punch, he wasn't, because he just drilled him right in the face. And then, what did they say, Brian? Was it 22 or 23 punches
23.
that he threw as hard and as fast as he could? I don't think more than 16 connected, though. And he's in a ring full of people. Nobody's doing any goddamn thing.
Well, apparently, from what I heard, the first person in there who tried to do something and there was nothing he could do was only 17 years old.
Yeah, I know here. Yes, yeah. Remind me when I talk about legal liability later on here in the episode. The first person to get to the scene of that, not to get to the scene, but to react to the scene of the attempted murder is a minor. Then he tries to pull his maniac off, and of course that doesn't work. And then Doug comes. And Doug's looks pretty fucking stout to me and apparently has some experience. And he's trying to pull the guy off, Raja, and he's pulling him off, and Raja tries to double leg him. And he fucking, it wasn't quite so easy as the guy was working with him a minute ago. And he didn't let him. He fucking snatched him. And apparently, as more people then came on, Raja punched him in the eye, Doug, and busted his eye open. So Doug headbutted him and drilled him back.
Yeah, in that interview that he did, Doug said in his mind as it was happening, and you can't really doubt this, if Raja Jackson had succeeded in taking him down with a double leg, he would have tried to kill him too. This was a guy that was going to just do this and no until someone stopped him, it seemed like.
Well, he was already beaten. I mean, anybody hadn't seen this, it's just ridiculous. And he's supposedly a Raja Jackson, a trained fighter, like George Goulas. He's the George Goulas of MMA, apparently, because his father, otherwise nobody would know who this fucking waste of sperm was. But if people are saying, well, he's a trained fighter, he can't fake it like the wrestlers. No, this is, if you're a trained fighter or a talented amateur, this is attempted murder of an unconscious body. There's no defense whatsoever.
It wasn't landing punches on someone who's trying to defend themselves and they're blocking you. This was a downed opponent who was out cold. Then he decided to start throwing as many punches as he could.
Yes, and the thing is, so when Doug's pulling him off, and Doug is actually a fucking challenge, if Raja got a fucking chance to get on top of him, what do you think he'd have fucking done? Because now you've got to be scared. Oh, shit. Somebody fucking fighting back here. I got to panic even more because he was in the zone. Because apparently the 42 fucking people that watched this guy wander around his life on camera were winding him up like, you're going to let that guy get away with that, hitting you in the head with that can and everything. And I guess now people are saying that his father verbally abuses him, belittles him, fucking is just a dick or whatever in some fashion. So this guy's got mental, and did you love that? Hold on, I may be jumping ahead, but goddamn it, just all this is so crazy. Old Rampage, when he puts out a statement saying, "Oh, I can't believe my son did this, and I'm so ashamed," or whatever he said, but he did suffer a concussion in sparring a few days ago. He's already setting up a brain damage defense because his goddamn little felon fucking bitch pussy son is trying to kill unconscious people. So anyway, back to this fucking deal. So again, not only were there people in the ring, this was the referee, the rest of the match was happening, whatever. And Doug, who was over by the stage, apparently not like it's a big building again, but this is by his words, he was at the stage and he saw it and had to run in. Other people could have chose to, and they didn't. And then when the pull apart and he gets his eye busted and he headbutts the guy and they pull Jackson out of the fucking ring and they're taking him out, somebody else in the match covered the fucking guy that had just been goddamn beaten to a pulp and is bleeding out of his face everywhere, covered him, and the referee counted it. Can you rewind that and just have me say that again? Because I don't know if I can get those words out again.
And I guess at that point, too, that's when he was also choking on his own teeth and blood.
Yes, he was in the process of choking on all of the teeth that it was described as a lot that got knocked out, and the blood that was not only coming from inside of his mouth, but also in various parts of his face. Somebody covers him, and the referee counts it because they got to get the finish in. And again, what kind of goddamn dog and fucking pony show? See, that's the thing is, and I told you earlier today, I said we ought to get Jay Sharknado to dig up when we talked about the developmental program. I don't know how months and months ago, and all the thousands of hours of audio we've done. and I talked about being the guy booking the third-party appearances and bookings for the talent in the 90s when I was in Stamford and working in the office. And how if the guys, autograph sessions, yes, but also if the guys that didn't get booked often then and weren't on big contracts, if they could work for some independent promoters, as long as they paid a booking fee and we knew that the promoters were somewhat legitimate, they would be allowed to do that. It was a boon to the guys that ran decent shows. But eventually, after I left, because nobody wanted to fuck with it, they just said, well, nobody can wrestle anymore. Actually, I think right before I left, they said, nobody can wrestle anymore because we don't want to fuck with these people. Because something might happen to get them in the fucking newspaper. Or get them on TV and there's a WWE guy standing next to the scene of the fucking crime or whatever. 30 years later, nothing has changed. That's why this WWE ID thing, and they give it out to this again. It's in the family. Oh, it's Rikishi's thing. Okay, whatever. But Jesus H. Christ, Rikishi ought to know better if his name's going to be on it. If he ain't there, he ought to have people that know what the fuck they're doing. And you can tell that they don't actually, none of them know what the fuck they're doing. To be honest with you, this wrestling school, allegedly, in quotation marks, because none of these people would be in a legitimate one. Except for Doug. Because everybody else looked like a goddamn bunch of fucking buffucking-foons. So anyway, they drag Roger Jackson out and they take him out the building and he starts walking down the street with his cameraman saying, I'm tired of these motherfuckers taking advantage of me. I ain't playing. And he's just walking down the street, further admitting, confessing to, this motherfucker ain't going to fly with me. And then some of the fucking wrestlers, allegedly, in quotation marks, that were on the show were brave enough to come to within a block of him and yell horrible words at him. After he just beat up one of the boys on the fucking cart and put him in a hospital. How did that motherfucker get out of the building? I mean, Jesus H. Christ. What do you think if somebody to fucking in Crockett, almost nobody liked Tully, but if somebody had beat the fuck out of Tully, he would have got 10 feet. The whole rest of the card would have ripped him into pieces.
Hey, Travis Scott smacked Cody in the ear. Just walked in the back smiling and high-fiving everyone. Everyone told me he did a great job. But you have to think if there was an assault like that, you'd have to think there'd be a line of people, if not running to the ring, waiting for the person to get in the back. You would have to think that.
Well, they didn't go to the back. He went out the side or whatever. I'm talking about, there wouldn't have been a wait for to come to the back. And there was no back in this goddamn building. There was plenty of ass, but no back. All those other wrestlers were standing a fucking around with their dicks in their fucking hands. They probably couldn't find their own dicks because they were such pussies. And one guy is the guy to get on this motherfucker. Again, and then they call an ambulance and fucking take him, and he was critical but stable was the description after the fact. I don't know that one of those doesn't contradict the other. I guess you could, well, he's no change. He's still fucking critical. But I know, let me try to walk this through step by step and explain how in any kind of legitimate professional environment, not only just because they're affiliated with the WWE, but just taking pride in anything you fucking do. Or is it just a money grab for the in-laws or the dehydrated alpha or whatever? But I'm not even going to talk about, oh, we'd have done it this way at Ohio Valley Wrestling, even though I'm going to talk about that in part. But the reason why we did it that way was because it was the way that it was done every goddamn where else that I'd ever been successful or professional or fucking just not allow stupid things like this to happen. This is another one of those modern phenomenons that could never happen in the legitimate professional wrestling industry. Everybody's internet smart. Yes, if you have a low budget school and you got a low budget show, then by all means dress out in a parking lot under a tent. There's no shame in that. You don't have to be too poor to paint and too proud to whitewash. That's fine. But the first thing is nobody needs to be drinking beer, even if it's a Saturday afternoon and it's good weather because it's California. There's no drinking until after the show, number one. Number two, how the fuck did Roger Jackson just wander into even if it's the dressing room, even if the dressing room is outdoors in a parking lot, it's in the back, it's not accessible to the public. A guy brought him in there that's friends with him. Hey, my friend, come on down and hang out with me and I'll take you back here and we'll talk to all the boys. No.
On camera.
Oh, well, I'm not even there yet. Just the idea of, I'm sorry. If it's a friend of yours or your brother-in-law or your fucking wife or your sister or your uncle or whoever the fuck family member or member of your social circle it is, they ain't in the fucking locker room. They're just not there. The people that are allowed in the locker room, and I know everybody's going to say in the WWE, they've got camera personnel and it's okay, fuck you. I'm talking about a goddamn wrestling show. And especially at a wrestling school where you're supposed to teach these principles. Nobody in the locker room except the boys that are on the card, whether it be wrestlers, referees, managers, anybody that's on the card, part of the show, your ring announcer and your local promoter. And that's it. In the territories, even the goddamn uniformed police weren't often allowed in the locker room. And a lot of building managers had to be insulted, but we're renting the building for these 4 hours tonight, so you can't go in the locker room. It was for a variety of reasons, to protect kayfabe, to cut down on, because guys, especially when it was a cash business, or guys had jewelry or shit, the fewer guys in the locker room, something goes missing, fewer suspects. And also because it was just goddamn protocol. And you didn't, on spot shows, a guy might bring his kid and the kid, we'd send the kid to run errands. You know, like that type of thing. That was a little bending the rules, but whatever the fuck. But there was not this goddamn, we can just bring anybody. if Cowboy Hat Guy had wanted to bring the son of a celebrity, whether he's an MMA fighter or a goddamn noted goddamn contortionist on the Ed Sullivan Show, he should have gone to whoever was running the show, either as the booker or as the promoter, and said, I've got a celebrity's kid, wants to meet the boys. And then you set up a separate fucking deal. And so in OVW or in any other promotion that I've worked in or been responsible for, number one, the Cowboy Hat Guy would have got yelled at for bringing the guy back to begin with. And then secondly, with a camera broadcasting to the world, no, not even for kayfabe reasons, but also for what if a guy walks out of the fucking porta potty with his dick out? But, and again, there weren't the camera phones in OVW or in the territories, but people had video cameras. If a guy had come in, that's what I'm talking about. This school is a bogus fucking insult to wrestling schools. If they have no more structure, no more discipline, no more control than what they have, and they have taught any of these guys no more than what they've taught them. If a guy came in with a visitor, unauthorized, he'd have been kicked out in the OVW locker room. If a guy came with a camera or a friend with a camera, he would have not only been booted, he might have been fucking expelled in the locker room without permission. Then, if any of the boys sitting around happened to see somebody with a camera and some other people talking and just went up and inserted themselves in it for whatever reason without being told, he would have got cussed out. And if he'd have picked up a fucking can and hit a guy that he's never seen before and hadn't been told to, he would be expelled and told to get the fuck out now. Except if, like, Psycho Stu is one of those guys that maybe he doesn't pick up on things too quick and it's just him. Okay, Stu, you can't be doing that, but you got cussed nevertheless at the time. If you're just a regular person, he would have got expelled. And instead of dehydrated Alpha standing up and just joshing, in my position, I would have been the one cussing at the guy for hitting the other guy in the head with a can, cussing at the guy for being in the locker room, cussing at the guy for bringing the guy in the locker room, and cussing at the guy with the fucking camera phone. Get the fuck, all of you get the fuck out of here. So there's that. But then they decided to make something out of it and put him in a spot, which means apparently either somebody, was it Cowboy Hat Guy, maybe dehydrated Alpha, maybe he's had enough of fucking Stu. Well, let this fucking kid go in and leg dive him and give him a fucking receipt, as they call it.
Yeah, why make something of this? For who?
There's no reason. For nobody. How would it? Oh, would it increase their exposure to the 70 people watching Raja? Oh, it's increased their exposure now. But I don't believe that.
Really? Most watch indie match of all time now.
Yes, from an ex fucking indie. But so they're going to make something out of it to fuck with fucking Stu in some fashion at the simplest basic terms. They're going to fuck with Stu for being hit him with a can, let him leg dive him, give him a shot. And of course, they don't even bother to think through a receipt. What's that? Give him a good one. What is that? Or you say punch him in the mouth, but don't hit him in the goddamn cheek or the fucking eye, or don't break his nose, or good Lord, don't kick him in the balls so hard that his fucking testicles explode. That could be a good one, or a shot, or whatever. There's no instruction whatsoever. And here's another thing, and I don't care whether it's a wrestling school or a promotion. And as a manager over the 35 fucking years from start to finish that I was doing shit, I've worked with non-wrestling people, radio disc jockeys, or celebrities of some element that had to do something similar. I had a mixed tag team match with me and Stan Lane against Tim Horner and the principal of the East High School in Morristown, Tennessee. Jerry Williams, the stiffest old bastard that ever stepped foot in a wrestling ring. Because we taught him how to body slam me and pin me. And we didn't think to fucking tell him not to put the point of his elbow into my goddamn Adam's apple when he was pinning me and permanently mutilate me. But the point, you don't let any non-wrestling people, and that even extends to managers and referees sometimes, if you want something not only to look good, but to be safe, there's extensive verbal communication if a walkthrough is not possible. And it's kept very basic. And you have, I've never just let two, and I mean, Psycho Stu, he may have been training for a long time, but, you know, I don't know how experienced he might be, but you don't let really green people in there doing their own thing to each other. You have experience around them, whatever. This was completely unprofessional and totally bullshit and small time. Outlaw mud show. They didn't care what it looked like. There's nobody there. They have no pride in what they're fucking doing. Let's just let this fucking guy fuck with this other guy. And Roger Jackson is sitting there on the front row, and you can only see people on two sides of the ring. I don't know if there's anybody behind. Where the fuck, right? Or maybe there was 27 people there. But he's sitting there saying he's going to do all this, and then when he slides in and they shoot it and he does everything that he said he was going to do, nobody would have ever called that to begin with. So it's not like that they were making some. What was his impetus to do that? He had not even been in front of the meager audience that was there. There was no cause for him to just suddenly jump in there and do that. They're just like, who the fuck is this guy? And if they're trying to make people believe it's real, then idiot Jackson has already told him that they told him to do that. But he's also told the people watching his stream that he's not going to do what they said. He's going to really fuck the guy up. So who was this for?
It may be for the district attorney. We'll find out. I have a statement here, Jim.
Please.
This was put out by AJ Mana, M-A-N-A, if that is how you pronounce it. He was the cowboy hat wrestler. I want to take a moment to address the recent incident at Knox Pro. By the way, it's such a stupid spelling. K-N-O-K-X. Knox Pro. First and foremost, my thoughts are with Psycho Stu and his family. No one ever wants to see a fellow performer get seriously hurt. There's been a lot of speculation online about my role that night. The truth is, I was in character and speaking.
Oh, jeez. Oh, come on.
And speaking in the language of wrestling. Everything I said was part of the show, and I never intended or encouraged real harm. This was a situation that unfortunately got out of hand due to a miscommunication behind the scenes. Wrestling is built on trust, respect, and protecting each other in the ring. That's what I stand for, and anyone who has worked with me knows that. I respect this business.
Apparently Doug doesn't.
I respect this business. I respect the fans, and I respect the performers who step between those ropes. I hope we can focus on Stu's recovery and making sure something like this never happens again.
Yeah, this was the guy that Doug said was a skinny, chicken-legged little bitch that had his ass kicked on a couple of fucking backyard fights and wanted to get somebody that was halfway trained to do his fighting for him, was Doug's description of the guy that just uttered that statement.
And actually, from the interview I saw, those are almost his exact words about this guy.
Yeah, I thought he was very eloquent. Yeah. Got down to the summation of the fucking thing.
This is like Colin Thompson putting out that statement saying, here are ways we could help the creators and change the business.
But anyway, so the thing is that obviously the WWE they immediately dropped these people off all the social media, and they don't have an ID.
That's right.
Deal of for whatever that was worth anymore. But just again, as speaking as a person who's offended as a professional who used to own a legitimate wrestling training program, the fucking guy and his cameraman should have never been in the middle of the boys without being cleared and having someone escort him to meet anybody he wanted to meet or do something like that, instead of just coming up and bullshit and shooting video on his own that wasn't cleared. When fucking Stu hit the guy in the head with a can, despite not having anybody tell him to do that. Somebody should have calmed Stu down and maybe told him to go home for the day at least. I don't know whose brilliant idea it was for this surly fucking Raja Jackson, who obviously wasn't taking things in a fucking fun spirit, to just suddenly jump into this match and spinebuster this guy, and even to do a spot where he, again, what was the plan? Give it a receipt. Was that the spinebuster that knocked him out? Or did they expect that he'd get on top of him and throw working punches? Did anybody show him how to do that or ask him whether he was going to do it? Or did they just leave it open to his interpretation as to how he should strike the guy once? And then he proceeds to do it 22 more times. And a guy from the back, when there's motherfuckers in the ring, except for the underage minor whose parents should be in contact with the insurance company, if any, of this fucking outlaw operation. Besides the underage minor, the guy from the back of the building was the one to get in there and do something about it, while all these other motherfuckers were holding their dicks in their hands. That spot had to go through who? Who's running that show? Who's fucking that dog? And who's just holding its head? Who is the person in charge on behalf of the corporate entity that owns this fucking flea market that said, okay, let's do that spot in this match on the show? This fight.
What spot?
The spot where he fucking takes him down and goddamn does whatever the fuck to him.
Because the whole idea, we're going to do something with this on the show. What were they going to do? This guy's not a trained wrestler. What was he supposed to do?
That's what they said, double leg him and get a receipt. That's what I'm saying. And who approves that to be a part of the fucking match? Or is this a, hey kids, let's put on a show where the boys just come up with their own shit in their match? In which case, why the fuck is the WWE involved? Oh, I forgot.
Oh.
Family. Well, but they're not anymore, but they were originally because of the fucking family. So he puts his name on this and he lets this shit go on.
And by the way,
so then hold on. I'm not even done with the list yet. God damn it. Now that I'm mad. So then somebody allowed this to happen and thought they was going to get a receipt. And then he gets 22 more and nobody will fucking come in. And then the fucking guy comes in and pulls. And then the motherfucker covers him and the referee counts it. Have these people, they are fantasizing that they are wrestlers. There is no level, there is no bar of competence anymore. There is no level of achievement. It used to be a halfway goddamn difficult thing to get into the goddamn wrestling business, and you didn't come in thinking you were smart because you were internet smart. There was no internet. But if you thought you were smart, you kept your mouth shut. And you had people that had been doing this for years and years teach you how the fucking thing worked. And none of these, they might be a veteran dehydrated alpha. He's 100 years old. He might be a veteran, but he's an idiot if he's responsible for any of this. You can be 100 years old and still be a goddamn nobody idiot. There is no excuse for this on any level, that any kind of operation should be run like this. And the fact that now it is so easy for everybody to just call themselves, I'm a wrestler, I'm a professional wrestler, I'm a worker, and I'm working all the time, baby. In your fucking heads, you goddamn amateurs. I'm so sick and fucking fed up with this shit. None of y'all out there, I don't care how smart you think you are, you ain't as smart as you think you are to the fucking wrestling business. And whether it's the fucking guys that want to fantasize that they're fucking wrestlers on the weekends and then goddamn drink beer and fucking shave half their heads on the fucking weekdays to look like some kind of goddamn gimmick and parade around and say, I'm a big time wrestler, or the fucking little jack off local yokels that make Jack Pfeffer look like P.T. Barnum that want to run these mud shows, or the goddamn marks that want to dissect whose fault is, well, he said he's going to get a receipt. You fucking morons on both sides of it. You're all fucking morons. You have a simpleton's understanding of this industry that has almost been lost today because everybody thinks they're fucking smart. So this wrestling school ought to be shut fucking down. Roger Jackson ought to go to goddamn prison. I think the family of Stu should file civil suits against everybody that's involved in this that might have any kind of fucking homeowner's insurance, at least to cover anything. Everybody from the top down all the way up to Rampage for fucking impregnating whatever hyena spawned this goddamn simpleton. And then I think they ought to give 25% of it to fucking Doug for being the only fucking person to be of any help whatsoever in the whole goddamn thing. I'm sorry, but I'm kind of just ticked off.
And it's understandable. Speaking of Doug, the interview he did that we referenced earlier was on the Scaling Up podcast. It's on YouTube. We encourage people who are interested to check out this video interview. They also put up graphics, allegedly from the school, Knox Pro, to various students or wrestlers that work with them, encouraging them not to talk to the police. Did you see that?
Actually, no, I didn't. I missed that one. Maybe I did. Well, no, as a matter of fact, I saw a headline and I didn't click on it. I just realized that now.
Apparently encouraging them not to cooperate with the police, and all the students, or at least a good amount of them, responded, yes, sir. Every one of them. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Speaking of WWE, WWE has removed Knox Pro from its talent recruitment website. The promotion has removed the WWE ID branding from social media. And the WWE ID Twitter account has unfollowed Knox Pro, Rikishi, and the head trainer Black Pearl. So WWE distancing themselves. It makes you wonder why they originally even just associated with it. Obviously, the Samoans,
it's
the
a family. It was a favor to the family.
Tied in, but, you know, Miro came out of that school. I saw he tweeted out something, but, you know, a school is more than who owns it. And, you know, maybe a lot of people were spoiled over the years by what you were doing in OVW. People like Tom Pritchard out there, people who took it all serious. Like you said, everything you see on that video, beyond going past the attempted murder, everything else was concerning just in terms of the maintenance and operation of a alleged wrestling company, whether it's a promotion or a school.
And I mean, okay, let's say that nobody was a real fucking fighter, Pinocchio, and wanted to jump this guy, but that they covered him afterwards and somebody counted. Just that, and just the way that they talk to each other, it's all internet smart outlaw bullshit. It's minor league, it's amateurish. And that's the thing. This got so much publicity.
Mainstream publicity, yeah.
Mainstream publicity that they just say a pro wrestler, a pro wrestling event, and you look at that, and people, again, mainstream, they don't know the difference, whether it's WWE, AEW, it's just pro wrestling. Look at these low rent, This bullshit that happened at wrestling. That's what gives the wrestling business a bad name. And I'm sorry, there was a lot of OVW shows that Danny Davis wasn't at. He was the owner. He was the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain. There was a lot of shows he wasn't at, but he knew everything that went on. And there were people there, whether it was me or a few others in his absence, that would not have tolerated any of that. And everybody up and down the card, before they were even allowed to be out in public in front of their first audience, their first match, would have known the basic principles that I just outlined. And none of that shit would have ever fucking happened. And that's just in the most basic of principles. There's structure and protocol in the wrestling business. And these people are just internet smart and fantasizing about doing shit on weekends. And yes, Miro may have come from there. And the reason why that they try to keep California wrestling schools on their radars, because there's always some fucking fighter or wannabe bodybuilder, or depending on the generation. When they wanted bodybuilders, they were in California. When they want fighters, they're in California. When they want fucking models, they're in California. But once they get John Cena was in California, and the rest of it, once they find them, they get them the fuck out of there, and then they train them. A lot of these guys, unfortunately, they're doing this on weekends. I'm offended for this fucking guy who didn't deserve to get his face bashed in just because he's not a goddamn Mensa member. And just the business and the business of schools and the business of how it has been prostituted, and how easy and simple it has become for anybody to act like they're a part of something that they would have never, ever been able to be a part of on merit before. I yield the floor.
And we'll see what happens. Obviously, there's been a lot of mainstream coverage of this, and a lot of it has even centered on, when will this guy be arrested? What's actually going on with this? You'd have to think that, unless they're just going to ignore that video that just came out, that he has to be arrested.
Who could do this and not? How can you do this and not be arrested? I don't know what is taking this long. And did Rampage have the Conor McGregor money? Did he just buy this off?
I don't know if he could do it that quickly, because also I don't know if it's going to go away. In the past, something like this, if this took place in a state in the South, this may destroy wrestling for anyone else wanting to promote wrestling in the state. That's the kind of thing that used to happen in the past. But, we'll see what happens with all this. You got to think if there's any lawsuit, it won't just be Roger Jackson. It'll be the promotion. They allowed this all to happen for no good reason. No one can give me any reason why. Hey, you know what? It'd be a good idea if we do some kind of angle with Rampage Jackson's son who no one knows. I don't think so.
Well, and again, as a matter of fact, I would be more than happy to lend a free and uncompensated statement on behalf of a person who ran a wrestling school at a pretty high level. All the various things that they did that was unprofessional and shouldn't have been done. It's almost the list of everything they did past brush their teeth that morning.
Well,
but Doug's my man. I like Doug.
And again, you can see that interview that just went up last night, I believe, as we are recording. And that's that story. We'll stay on top of it. I just hit something here. We'll stay on top of it as we find out more information. Jim, it's always awkward, but why not go with it? Perhaps you're one of these guys that thinks, I'm a physical guy. I do MMA. I do boxing. I've always liked wrestling, whatever it may be. I want to go and be a wrestler. How many of these men would spend their time more wisely if they just created some sort of concoction and launched a website and started selling it to the world? And we know the perfect partner for this alleged concoction.
Well, it depends on what kind of concoction now, because you can't make a concoction without cock. And there's no, there's no limit to the thing. Well, it's just the thing
I was going, sir.
You got to think it all the way through, see? But what about a potion or a lotion? A potion that could cause emotion and make you need lotion for motion. Whatever you want to make or produce, let's say. Production is the key. Control production. You got to have a market. You got to have a marketplace. You got to have somebody. You got to have customers is what you need ultimately.
Yes.
And so in between the time that you make something, Brian, and the customer buys that thing from you, there's steps you need to go through. And you need somebody on your side. And Shopify is that person, because Shopify, actually, that's some double lingual plural shit there. Shopify is a major corporation, not a person. Yes. And did you hit a sour one there?
That wasn't a sour one. What are you talking about?
That little girl's pigtails getting in the way of the bell.
It's not a kid on a bike. It's the official Shopify jingle.
Yes. That's not really a jingle, though.
No,
that's more of
not.
A ringle.
It's the official Shopify Sonic branding.
Ah. But Shopify is not a person. It's a giant empire. So I can't say Shopify is the person. But nevertheless, Shopify is the huge empire behind millions of businesses around the world, their commerce platforms, 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. Think of how many billions and billions of dollars that entails, goes right through Shopify and that purple pay button. Somebody takes their finger, boom, hits that button, you get money. If you are indeed the person they're buying from, and that's what Shopify is going to help you do. They're going to take your thing, whatever your thing is that you want to sell. Certain restrictions apply in some states. And they're going to market that thing. They're going to design the website. They're going to enhance your product images. They're going to write the descriptions. They're going to generate the discount codes. They're going to run the easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. It's going to get your word out. And then, if all else fails, they're going to go door to door, knock on people's doors, and they're going to have a small bucket in their hand. They're going to say, please give to this needy. Yes, and every time that somebody gives and they ring that bell, that an angel turns around and gets a hot dog.
There's going to be no angels with hot dogs. And of course, they don't go door to door. It is something where they are there for you when you need them online, where all commerce is done today.
Oh, so they're there for you, but at a distance. They're not going to crowd you, is what you're saying.
You won't be crowded. You'll be able to operate your business the way you would. You'll be able to sell your products the way only you.
Well, don't tell them that. If they operate the business the way they will, they'll go out of business. They'll go broke. No, they need Shopify, because Shopify's smarter than these knuckleheads out there.
That's right.
That's right. And Shopify is always around to share advice with their award-winning 24/7 customer support, where you just make an appointment 24/7 and they'll come over to your house, sit down, have a cup of coffee, put their arm around your shoulders and support you and tell you that bankruptcy's not the end.
Virtual support.
There's a way to come back from just because your wife and children have left you because you're a failure and can't support them.
They will not be supplying you with legal advice or therapeutic options. What Shopify is there to do is there to help you with your products. Get online, get in front of the biggest store, make it easy to buy things like they do for us, ArcadianVanguard.com.
Yes.
Go to the shop app, search for Jim Cornette. There's a reason those shirts pop up, and that reason is Shopify. Jim, oh my God. There's just so many sounds and things happening right now. I don't know how we're going to be able to keep track of this tornado
it's like an amusement park. Folks, turn your dreams into the cha-chinging and give them those dreams there the best shot at success that you can with Shopify. And you can sign up right now for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today at shopify.com/JCE. Shopify.com/JCE. It's only $1 a month for the trial period. And then you'll be hooked and you'll be millionaires and you'll be farting through silk.
No guarantees.
And kids on bicycles will come in every day pouring money in your coffers.
Again, it's not a kid on a bicycle, and that's not how it works, but they are there for you. Take care of your business. A great deal to get started. Shopify.com. www.patreon.com/JCE. Dearly beloved, we now have to travel to the UK for AEW's British Spectacular Forbidden Door. In the past, it was filled with a lot of wrestlers from New Japan or CMLL, and it seems like that number shrinks every year. It was mostly AEW wrestlers with some of the semi-regulars that appear throughout the year on Dynamite.
Well, now they all just pop up. So it's not like it's the once a year you get to see these people because and also there's not that many new people anymore. But some of these people are very old, but nevertheless, I think you hit the right tone there with it's like a cathedral setting type of thing. They're preaching to the choir is what I'm trying to say. Because I actually watched this thing. The Prime Video doesn't bug me as bad as the Netflix, Brian. I get a little box at the bottom of the screen when I pause it and fast forward it where I can see that I'm skipping shit that I want to skip and I'm not skipping shit that I don't want to skip. So it's handier. But it wasn't bad, the Prime Video. But the show is continuing to preach to the choir, and I'm afraid that the congregation continues to get just burnt out on a lot of stuff. And they had a wonderful house in London, 18,900, whatever, the biggest wrestling crowd in the O2 Arena history. They haven't killed London yet. The big show is still a big show for them over there. Over there, say a prayer. 'Cause the talent's over, and we can't get over unless we're over there. They're doing the music hall in Cincinnati in the United States, and they've got 18,000 people in England. But what did they have to do that was any different or even as good as the shit they've been doing over here to lackluster crowds and diminishing response? Because they've burned everything out. And now they opened up Forbidden Door with a great package for their audience, because it all concentrated on the legendary and groundbreaking partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling and CMLL, global stars, action highlights. The average person has no idea who 80% of the people in the action highlights that are called global stars are. The Open didn't build stars, individual stars, on either the roster or this particular event, and or rivalries between same, or explain them. The focus was on international wrestlers. Do you think that's a good mainstream strategy to try to get anybody involved in your program?
Was that a question for me?
Yes, that's a question for you.
I mean, they're micro-targeting to a Tony Khan type fan. And that's why the fans who seem to like the booking, when the booking seems awful, the fans that seem to like promos sometimes when they just seem unbelievable and fake. There's a certain fan base that really likes his style of TV and nonstop matches where, everything is a long competitive squash match. Even on this show, there were a bunch of matches you knew who was going to win. And you knew there was no reason they need to go 20 minutes.
TV matches.
But it's all the time now. I almost wonder, would they lose any audience if instead of a 20-minute match that's a long competitive squash match, they put 3 squash matches in that time? And it was just 3 wrestlers coming out there and looking good? But it's not the way they do things. And, there's a lot of reasons to want to root for AEW and want AEW to be able to fight back against WWE, but then you watch what it is And then you hear Tony talk, and I watched a media scrum afterwards. He's so happy with himself. And he really thinks he is someone who has this down. And unfortunately, there aren't too many people in the wrestling business who think he does. It's micro-targeted to the tape trader who went to message boards, and not even all of them.
And the thing, he has tools here. And besides the big house, because London, I mean, it's not Wembley, but still 20,000 fucking people or whatever. He has stars. He has people that are over with the audience, but it's like a jigsaw puzzle that's put together all wrong. And the first match, Edge's entrance, he comes out, he's still over there. I won't sing again. And they cut his music and the whole crowd sang the last two verses. It's like a star has come out. And Christian came out and he got a response too. And it's the reunion of Edge and Christian. And then here comes Pip Sabian and
Mama Wayne's breasts.
former. Well, she'll never drown. She's got that going for her. And they've substituted now our old friend Dino Douche Luchasaurus, who they are insisting on calling Kill Switch, even though all the fans keep chanting Luchasaurus at him because apparently that would disrupt the whole angle. I don't know why. And the fans stood there. The crowd was deflated. This was a TV match for Edge and Christian's reunion. And that to me is, they've got this convoluted deal going on where, will you help me with Nick, who now his foot is broken, so now it's Dino and Pip, and I'll help you with FTR, but geez, oh Pete, nobody wants to see these guys. And Luchasaurus, they want to see him, but they don't want to see Kill Switch, and they want to see him switch, which apparently they're going to do because this match, again, Edge and Christian return. You can tell 100 stories, but not at the same time. Not only did we get Edge and Christian's reunion, but also they had to put the Lizard's stuff over as a giant. They couldn't just completely, make him secondary, but then they've still got to get over themselves, but then that means Pip gets the shit kicked out of him, but nobody gives a shit when Pip's in the ring. When Pip's in the ring, they're chanting for the Lizard to get back in the ring.
Yeah, the fans may have sang Edge's song, but once the match got going, they were chanting for Luchasaurus the whole time.
Well, yes, because again, they want him to be a babyface. Well, then now, because Christian used to mistreat him, now for some reason, Pip, who's nobody in this thing and has no reason to disrespect Luchasaurus, starts slapping him to tag him and telling him what to do. And finally, the Lizard grabbed Pip and threw him at Edge, but the crowd didn't get it because of the way that they did it. There was there was ideas of good spots in here, but neither Luchasaurus nor Pip is a good bumping worker to take bumps. But as a psychologist, I don't know. And as we've said a million times, Dino's just the shits. He don't get it. And with the heel team not being a good team, the match died until, finally they got into the go home part. And then Edge, the veteran, the biggest star in the thing, back elbowed Pip in the corner and busted his eye open. Oh, Jesus Christ, they're all fucking crazy now. And then Dino chopped Pip off the apron of the ring and threw him in the ring, but Mama Wayne distracted Christian, and Pip knocked Christian off the apron, and they got more heat on Edge. But then Pip went for a superplex on Edge, and Luchasaurus comes under his own partner and puts him on his shoulders and stands there while Edge comes off the top with a clothesline, a doomsday device. And the announcers were saying, well, I wonder if that was on purpose. So fucking just picked the guy up and stood there and stock still for the other guy to hit him. How's it? And then that wasn't a turn. I don't know what they're fucking doing here. Oh my God, I've got a cramp. Oh, I've got a cramp in my rib. So, man, this whole thing's a rib and I've got a cramp. Then Dino got out and reached for the tag from Pip and got it after he allowed the guy to held him up to be doomsday deviced. And then Edge finally tagged Christian. And then Christian did some shit. And Edge and Christian double teamed Luchasaurus and the fans sang something. I could not tell what. And it's still going on now. Bunch of back and forth. And then Christian boosted Pip up in the air and Edge speared him 1, 2, 3. So it just, the good thing, there was no furniture. That was a good thing. And Edge and Christian didn't do anything crazy to potentially injure themselves. But the interaction between the heels, the heel team, they're not a good team if they're trying to be a good team, and they're not good enough workers to be a good team while trying not to be a good team. If that makes any sense. And they drug it down. And to be honest, Pip and Nick wouldn't have been any better maybe if they'd have made it shorter and they'd have taken more bumps for Edge and Christian, but they probably wouldn't. They'd have probably still made it long and got a bunch of their shit in and their small children. But there you have it.
You know, I'm at the point where I hate Cope's matches and I hate his promos. But I'm still happy for him when he gets to come out there and has actual fans on both sides of the building and he can do his run around and like feel like he used to. I'm already sick of the people singing the music. Maybe I'm a cranky guy. I don't know. Everyone sings everything. But when they turn the music off and intentionally give it a long gap so people can keep singing, and then they film the fans, and there are fans who have like their hands in the air looking up. Like it's Christian rock or something. Like they're really into like, yeah, like as they're singing it. Enough of this, because that's the problem. It's going to be like Judas. They're going to milk this every single week, where a minute of TV time is going to be taken up by fans singing at us.
Well, in this case, it's better than Jericho singing at us.
I still can't get over the idea that Nick Wayne's not there and his mom flew across the country. I thought the whole idea she was there was because her son was hired. Who knows?
Well, yeah, because, you know, he's home laid up with a broken foot. I mean, she's going to miss, 3 or 4 breastfeeding sessions.
All right, well, there's that. What do you think of, any other closing thoughts on the reunion of Edge and Christian? Obviously, we'll talk about the tag title situation later. There's a show coming up in Toronto. If there was ever a spot to have 2 Toronto guys win a tag titles. Any other thoughts on these 2 guys reuniting?
Well, but the thing is, they ain't going to win the tag titles because FTR aren't the tag team champions. Spoiler alert. And their whole reason d'etre, as they say, is to now fight FTR, right, for stabbing Edge in the back. So Edge and Christian against FTR is going to be a better match. But the tag, oh, fucking hell. We'll get to the tag team title. Because we got to do the TNT title first. Brian, did you get a gander, a little glance at Kyle Felcher against Takahashi?
I did. I also saw Kyle Fletcher at the... Fletcher. I can't even say his name. I also saw Kyle Fletcher at the media scrum afterwards in a suit, as well-spoken and behaved a wrestling ambassador as I've ever seen in one of these media scrums. I had to remind myself, he's this asshole heel with Don Callis.
Well, but that is part of the problem here is that this guy has incredible genetics, athleticism, the physique, the size, the look. He's obviously intelligent. He's got some charisma. He's got so much potential. He's never going to learn anything here but the bad habits that he doesn't already know. He knows how to do the moves, but he's not going to get any idea of why to do them and how to put matches together and how to book wrestling from this nonsense he's in the middle of. And he's, again, too inclined to go into the video game mode where you're just doing shit rather than, he's the next generation Randy Orton, maybe, if he doesn't get brain poisoning here. But they put him, and again, you said he came off great at the press conference. Whatever the case, whether heel or babyface, I don't know how long this match went. I zoned out for a while. But they put this kid, as good as he looks, and he's the TNT champion, and the best entrant from the Forbidden Door they could come up with. What Takahashi is like 5'6", pudgy, fat, wearing green tennis shoes and green tights with pink feathers and pink hair. What the is this a guy that's a star in Japan? You're more versed in that than I am. Why the fuck would he's giving away a foot and a significant amount of athletic ability, and he looks ridiculous.
Yep.
This little pink marshmallow, and he's power bombing Kyle on the floor, and he's kicking the shit out of him. And who is this fucking guy?
He's a longtime regular for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's been wrestling for a long time. Their fans seem to like him. Doesn't do much for me.
Well,
and this was a long squash match, what it should have been.
Yes. Is a long,
you knew
but it wasn't a squash match.
Well, it was. That's the point. It was, because you knew right away that he wasn't winning the TNT title from Kyle Fletcher.
Oh, I know that, but a squash match is if Kyle had just beat the shit out of him. Although, no, this little fucking pink Japanese marshmallow is beating the shit out of Kyle for a good portion of this thing. I mean, at least he can move. He's not like Tanahashi or Ishii or the other fellows that are just encased in goddamn plaster and can't move. He can move around. He looked like shit. And then the finish. Spoiler alert. Kyle hits him with two great-looking fucking kicks. And the guy went down. He didn't even cover him. He picked him up. And the guy small packaged him. The guy just got his brains kicked out twice. Small package, boom, then he pops up. And then Kyle picks him up and brain busters him 1, 2, 3. And who the fuck comes up with these fucking finishes? But anyway, you match your young star with a lump of shit, and it's all he can do to beat him in 20 minutes. I don't know what more to tell you. Not you, Brian, not the royal you.
I'm being accused of anything. There's reasons why the door was once forbidden. I guess this match may be one of those reasons. Jim, before we move on.
Yes.
Can we just talk real quick about the matches that you didn't mention, that you didn't watch on the pre-show?
I forgot about that.
Again, they're in London. It's a lot of plane tickets, a lot of hotel rooms. It's a big show, but...
And they had to be there for several days, right? Because they did Wednesday there, and then they did the Saturday or whatever the...
They were in Scotland. They've been traveling, too. It wasn't like they're just in London.
Yes. They're just schlepping all over the country over there.
Well, here are the matches that you missed. An 8-man tag team match.
Oh, good.
The Paragon of Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong versus El Desperado and Yuya Uemura. I'm not familiar with him, excuse me. They defeated Crew of Action Andretti and Leo Rush and the Don Callis family of Hechicero and Josh Alexander with Lance Archer and Rocky Romero at ringside. 12 minutes and 5 seconds.
That is easily from the United States to England. That they just spent $15,000 just in plane tickets for that match.
The next contest, a trios match. The Gates of Agony of Bishop Khan and Toa Leona and Ricochet defeated Jet Speed and Michael Oku with his manager Amira Blair. They're local, so they don't have to be flown in. 9 minutes and 55 seconds. So there's another bunch of people. The next match on the pre-show, an 8-woman tag team match.
Oh, good Lord.
The Triangle of Madness of Julia Hart, Sky Blue, and Tekla, and Megan Bain, with Penelope Ford, defeated Harley Cameron, Chris Statlander, Queen Aminata, and Willow Nightingale, 11 minutes and 15 seconds. So there's another...
Did you hear, by the way, Aminata is stuck in the can't leave the country. Somebody stole her bag with her passport in it. Now she can't leave for like 3 or 4 more days or something. They said on the internet, so it must be true.
I did not see that, but I kind of thought Drew McIntyre might have started a new trend of extending my UK vacation. But finally, Jim, on the pre-show, the Ops of Shibata, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Samoa Joe defeated the Bullet Club War Dogs of Clark Connors, Drilla Maloney, and Robbie X with Gato. 7 minutes and 20 seconds. They had like 50 people on the pre-show.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about the pre-show. Being an afternoon thing anyway, I tuned in at 1:00 and I was going to praise them because the show was only 4.5 hours long. I realized now the show was 6 hours long. I forgot about the pre-show.
Yeah, you missed also the awkward annual Martha Hart Tony Khan promo in front of a live crowd. That's never seemingly the way it's supposed to go.
Does Martha Hart live in England now?
No, but she's representing the Owen Hart Foundation, and this was I don't think she is. Maybe she is, and I just don't know. I had not.
Why would they fly her? Why would she care to fly all the way from fucking Calgary to England just to come out and do a promo on a pre-show?
What's a good time to go there before the weather turns?
Well, speaking of turning, let's turn back to the event. Brian, I'll ask you, what did you think of the big 4-way women's contest with Alex Windsor versus Bozilla versus Persephone versus Mercedes Moon?
Persephone, a.k.a. Persephone, and doesn't she just look happy to be there?
She does look a little phony.
The big takeaway was, who's Bozilla? Someone that young, that big? Why hasn't WWE been all over that? Get that in the system.
Well, now don't say that.
Excuse me, I'm saying it in an awful way.
Hey, why ain't WWE be all over that? I'll tell you.
No, but I thought she was impressive, but I wasn't really into the match at all.
Well, I'll have you know, this is where I found out that I got my little goddamn box so that I can fast forward to see what I'm missing. And I fast forwarded about 15 minutes and just decided to stop in and check. And I saw a triple superplex with a German suplex assist of all 4 of them off the fucking top rope. And I fast forwarded another 5 minutes or so.
That move always comes off naturally, doesn't it?
Oh, well, of course. And it's easy to set up instantly with that cooperation. And one of the girls went for a razor's edge on Mercedes, and she turned it into a roll-up 1, 2, 3. And that was with entrances of all these people and all their various tomfoolery. It was probably, about 25 minutes or so of time. Whew. Did I miss any of the fine points?
Like I said, Bozilla was the first time I've seen Bozilla. I've seen the name before. She seemed impressive. For a division, whether it's AEW, WWE, they need women that don't just all look the same. She stands out. I would keep an eye on her.
Well, good. Let her go ahead and stand on out there for a while and see if anybody notices her. The next match on the card came as a surprise to me because apparently they just told us about this on Collision, which we don't watch. Or maybe they didn't tell us about it at all. I don't know. But is Nigel McGuinness still doing commentary on Collision? I would assume so.
I think so. Having a great time on Saturday night.
Oh, quit now. For heaven's sake.
I'm yelling.
They prescribed him those hormones and he speaks much more deeply now. No, I love you, Nigel. I miss you. And Nigel's a great guy. But suddenly on this pay-per-view, here's the IWGP World title on the line with Zack Sabre Jr. defending against Nigel McGuinness with Danny Garcia in his corner because Nigel won a 4-way to win the title shot, and I guess he beat Danny or whatever the fuck. But so we've already had a TNT title. We're going to have the AEW World title. There's a unified fucking title going on around here. Now, here's the IWGP World title. And again, preaching to the choir. Can you look at Zack Sabre Jr. as any wrestling fan across the United States of America, the width and breadth of this fine land, and tell me that any of them are going to buy this slightly built human Q-tip as the world champion of something important? Yes, he does a wonderful job mimicking the moves of the world of sport greats without any of the fucking grit and fucking look and goddamn grunting and ugliness of the salty old time British motherfuckers that did it. It just looks silly when a guy like Sabre does it. And Nigel is very good at it, but he's had, what are the 3 wrestling matches in the last 14 fucking years? And he's primarily an announcer, but suddenly he wins a match for a world championship of something that's allegedly important. And to train for it, we see Nigel beating Johnny Saint in a chess game out in the park. And I get what they were going for. It's nice to see Johnny Saint, but no, it's like, did Frank Gifford go back to play for the NFL after he'd been doing the announcing for 10 years or so?
No. And then we get to see Marty Jones and, confused at ringside. We got to see the old legends just looking befuddled at what is going on here.
But that's just the thing, is that it's the complete opposite of a garbage furniture match that they usually have. It's so dry you had to watch it in the rain because they're paying tribute again to the British style. But Nigel has in his day, in his athletic peak, and he got a lot of his best years jacked out from under him for one reason or another. But he get hit hard and fucking snatch shit, but he's not going to fucking go out there at this time. I felt like he might hurt Sabre if he fell on him the wrong way. This little twink is so slightly built.
When he came out there, when he walked to the ring and he's wearing his jacket, I said, wow, it looks like he's actually put on some size finally. Good. And then he took off his jacket. I realized we're right back to where we started.
But I zoned out for a while because that's the thing. And this slightly amused face that Sabre has when he's supposed to be doing reversals of a guy trying to grab him in wrestling holes irks me also. And then he reversed a sunset flip 1, 2, 3 in about another 20 minutes. I love the idea of doing athletic, technical-oriented matches amongst guys who are the practitioners of these things, but you can't do it in the middle of a 6-hour show with a part-time guy and a skinny nobody, and then they just shake hands and hug. Okay. Blah.
My favorite thing about the match was the post-match, because it looked like they may have been setting up an angle or something, and instead we got like kind of an awkward... Everyone get out of the ring now. We have an announcement to make.
Yeah. Can y'all quit hugging and kissing on each other? We got to talk to Tony's there waiting on you motherfuckers to leave.
Right. Didn't it seem like they were setting something up?
Yes. Well, they were. They were trying to get Tony Schiavone in the ring to talk about the big crowd, and they couldn't get the fuckers. But you know what? Honest to God, and again, it's a classic. Eddie Graham used it as the example of a great athletic wrestling match that never drew money on top was Billy Robinson and Tony Charles. But I would love to see them in their early 40s on a show like this to just have the people go out of their minds. And it's like watching, to compare with those guys back then, and even the Johnny Saints of the world, they were a little smooth. I liked the more smash mouth style that some of the salty bastards had. But it's a difference in watching a big time magician in Vegas and a guy doing like the local magic show equivalent of dinner theater. They're doing the same thing, but it just looks so much more real. Anyhow, then suddenly, Brian, without warning, as these things usually do when they happen suddenly, they also happen without warning. Thekla and Queen Waiata got in a fight in the back of the building and fought into the arena. But Julia Hart and Blue Sky came out and jumped the Queen. And then Jamie Hayter came out and ran all the heels off by herself. The end. I get was that they have unfinished business from the pre-show. They said they've been fighting for quite some time.
It started during that multi-person match or multi-woman match in the pre-show, and Jamie Hayter, we haven't seen her in a little while. Not necessarily wearing the same green to-do that she was wearing last time, but still it seems kind of like a retro, I'm just working hard as a waitress in like 1972 kind of look and gimmick with the hair and everything else. I don't know what they're doing with Jamie Hayter.
She's just doing the best she can. Believe it or not.
They could bring back,
alrighty.
I was about to say Vic Tayback. They could bring back the Butcher as their Vic Tayback and have him manage her. Just a hardworking woman.
Bring Tayback back. Bring back Tayback.
Bring back Tayback.
Yes. And then Ryback will try to make it all about him. All right. So anyway, the tag team title was on the line, folks, in a 3-way tag team match, and a shocking conclusion that nobody ever could have predicted. FTR versus the Hurt Syndicate versus Bandito and Burger King. I'm sorry, Brody King. I misread my notes. Well, same thing. And there was no MVP with Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin. The announcers, I was waiting
never
for
said
a while,
his name
and then I
once.
zoned out, but they never mentioned his name. They did immediately at the top of the contest and reiterated it at least a time or two during the match. Well, now the match can end without the champions even being involved. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know, wink's as good as a nod to a blind man, Brian.
They don't have to be involved. They don't even have to be in the room.
Exactly.
They got as far away from this as they
Yes, they get as far away from the scene of the fucking... But so, again, we're wondering why that... if and somebody said, well, MVP was never supposed to be there. Why? Why? We'd like to know. And if everything was cordial and they come up with an excuse for everything else when they say, oh, MVP missed his flight. His flight was hijacked and flown to Cuba. What is something? So we need to keep an eye on this thing here. And even if it's nothing, it looks stupid. They didn't say anything because he's part of the fucking deal.
MVP missed his flight, anything. Just say something. You can't just pretend he was never there to begin with.
So then they ring the bell, and it's immediate 6-way with the other 4 teaming up on Lashley and Benjamin, all on the floor, and the camera's missing shit. And they do that for a couple minutes, and then they just all get up on the ring and start a regular match with only 2 guys in the ring and all the other guys on the apron and taking tags. After the announcers had said, well, there's no tags involved in this match. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's driving me crazy. So then Shelton and Bobby beat up everybody, and the fans are chanting, "We hurt people. We hurt people." They've got stars here, and they haven't been able to figure out anything for them to do to in any way make a goddamn contribution to the fucking gate. And then they got heat on Bandito, but FTR wouldn't tag Bandito. They dropped down and refused his tag because they're heels too, trying to get, back in the old days, Brian, in the 4-team elimination matches they used to have, if you refused a tag, it was an automatic disqualification. That's how you could get the fucking combinations you needed to get in. They had no choice, but nevertheless, finally, Bandito tagged Burger King, and there was a big pop. And Shelton tagged Dax, and King made a big comeback on FTR. And then there was a face-off with Lashley and King, and the people roared. And they traded forearms and a couple of tackles. And Lashley spine-busted him, and he popped up and leveled Lashley. And then Shelton came in and suplexed everybody and gave Brody 3 Germans. And then somehow Brody King and Cash gave Shelton the Shatter Machine inadvertently together. And then, and Bandito picked up Dax and backflipped him off the top rope onto everybody. But it looked like they hit the floor. He just flipping power slam Dax off the top rope to the floor. I hope they think this shit's worth it. But then suddenly 3 guys in New Japan wrestling hoodies jump the Hurt Syndicate, and they fight off out into the fucking hinterlands. And the match keeps going on. And then we find out that the hoodie guys are Ricochet and his 2 stooges, whatever their fucking names are. Well, but in the meantime, Dax just knocks Brody King over the head with a chair. He gets a 2 count. And then they keep going, and they try to do this fancy finish. And by the way, the Hurt Syndicate, I keep doing that. They fight off with the hoodie guys, and the hoodie guys are back out there. The Hurts just left. You never see them again. As you mentioned, they weren't even there. So Bandito foils FTR when they're going for their superplex splash. And Bandito splashed Dax off the top rope. And right there, he could have covered, but he didn't. He gets up and runs to the far turnbuckle. And Brody King squirms into place on his ass so he can get in the right place. And Bandito runs, and Brody monkey flips Bandito into a 450-degree splash onto Dax that he kind of missed. But he landed there, and he had the leg, and the referee goes down to count 1, 2, and Bandito let go of the leg and started to roll off, and then grabbed him again, got back on him, and the referee counted 1, 2, 3 again.
And the other wrestlers were like diving. They didn't know what to do. They're like mid-dive as all this like fell apart at the end.
And so it was a horrible finish. The Hurt Syndicate are the only stars in this thing, and they just the Bandito and Brody King couldn't take the simple win that they actually executed. They had to fucking do that and fuck it up at the last minute. And as you said earlier, it'd be great to have Edge and Christian against FTR for the title, but instead we got it on Frick and Frack here, the odd couple. And so the guys that are going to face Edge and Christian next on a big show just got beat. By people not Edge and Christian. Your thoughts?
Tag title change, Hurt Syndicate not even in the room when it happens. That says a lot. The rumors were that they didn't want to put over FTR for whatever reason. We'll see what we can find out about that. The only thing I'll say that could in any way justify getting the belts off them was that it's clear that AEW is going to have a big problem with baby faces right now. Baby faces who can work on top, who are over, who aren't going down with injuries. I don't know if Tony's going to pivot and all of a sudden push Lashley or Shelton like that, but if there was ever a time to, it may be now where Ospreay's hurt, Swerve may be hurt, Omega could barely work.
Then why not take advantage of the fact people are already chanting for him and just turn them babyface while they're the champions?
I think they kind of did, maybe in their own way. I'm not even sure.
No, they just, I think they worked out something that Bobby and Shelton weren't insulted by, where they could just not even be around when everything happened.
Well, there it is. New tag team champions, Bro Dito.
See, they needed MJF after all. MJF could have stopped all this.
You know what? That falling apart ended up costing them, but you know what else may have cost the Hurt Syndicate here?
What's that?
You know, travel, jet lag. I don't know what kind of hotel Tony's putting the wrestlers that he's mad at in. A good night's sleep is always important for the average day, let alone an athletic endeavor. And maybe because the Hurt Syndicate didn't have their mattresses from Helix Sleep, let alone their manager, maybe that's why. Well, they really didn't do anything wrong. They got attacked and left the building. They didn't get pinned or anything. They just wanted a good night's sleep, and
they just wanted to go to bed.
Yeah, come on. You know what I'm talking about.
No, we don't. But I'll tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, they would have had an easy time whipping those guys before the other guys came out, the guys in the hoodies that they fought off with. They would have already won the match if they'd had a good night's sleep. But you know how it is. When you're going to a foreign country, there's the time difference, you're zoned out in the international zone, and you got the jet lag and the big swollen cankles. And you can't sleep on those, even in first class these days, those cattle cars of the air that they call commercial airlines. You can't crack back or crank back all the way flat and sleeping like you're sleeping in the arms of the angels. Instead, you're in a lumpy recliner type apparatus with no leg room, and you're all cramped up. That's why that the Hurt Syndicate or anybody else that takes those flights, they can't walk straight for months. But if you can't walk straight, it's your own fault because you're not sleeping on a good mattress or flying overseas and across the intercontinental time zones. You just need to call Helix or write to Helix. Actually, go to Helix on the internet, helixsleep.com. That's where you're going to go, because no more are you going to go without a good night's sleep. Brian, you know, if you got night sweats, you got back pain, you got the Jimmy legs, you like to sleep on a firm mattress because of your aches and pains, or a soft one because of your aches and pains, they can help you out with whatever you need, ladies and gentlemen. They can give it to you hard, or they can give it to you soft. They can give it to you short, or they can give you a real big one. They can give you one that just bounces you around, or they can give you one that just lets you lay there. They can give it to you any way you want it, Helix.
They can get you a great mat. Again, before this goes too far, wherever you tend to go, a great mattress for you, your family. It comes as a whole experience, opening it up, watching it unfurl before your very eyes, and then sleeping on the unfurled mattress to your own personal great delight. A good night's sleep. That's right. Comfort when you sleep.
When you take the cover off, it just starts getting bigger and bigger. Don't have the kids in the room, folks. But
well, no, I wouldn't say that. You can have the kids there. Everyone keep a safe distance. Once again, a great night's sleep. Let's focus on that. Helix sleep.
Well, and I'll tell you what, right now, again, with the night, I had the night sweats, Brian, and the tossing and turning and the nightmares and the waking up and seeing the paint clawed off the walls next to the bed and the paint under my fingernails. And people told me I should get medical advice, but instead I just got a brand new Helix mattress and put up wallpaper. And now it's much better. And folks, right now you can save a lot of money because you know what's coming up, Labor Day. That's the day when nobody works. And for the Labor Day sale best of the web offer, the fine folks at Helix, just for you, within the sound of my voice, the listeners of the Cult of Cornette, are offering 27% off site-wide. 27% off for the Labor Day sale best of the web offer. That's from now until September 8th. Don't be left out. 27% off when you go to Helix, Helix, sleep.com/JCE. 27% off when you, boom, tell them that we sent you. HelixSleep.com/JCE. And they're also, they're going to start selling wallpaper, I heard.
No, they're
wallpaper
not. We're right here at the end. There's no reason for superfluous nonsense here.
Well, I'm just saying you can look for that in the future, that if you've clawed all the paint off.
Look forward to a good night's sleep in your future.
In the meantime, Christmas paper can serve sometimes in that capacity.
I don't know what exactly is happening here. Ladies and gentlemen, we love Helix Sleep here in this house. I know they love McCastle Cornette. Get a Helix Sleep mattress for yourself.
Nothing seeps out of them.
Jim, one last time.
No seepage. No seepage.
With that professionalism you're known for, one last time, what is that promo code?
Well, I'm going to get my receipt. That's helixsleep.com/JCE.
That's right. And why don't we slash our way back to London like Jack the Ripper would have? Well, that's a bad transition, but let's go back to London for AEW Forbidden Door.
Well, Jack the Ripper would have been an amateur compared to the type of carnage that these AEW wrestlers wreak on people. The big title, one of the big titles was up next, Brian, the unified title. It was unified between, what was it, the Continental title and the Champion title. I can't fucking remember. But has there been a match not for a title yet? Wait, hold on. Besides the pre-show, the first match was Edge and Christian's reunion. They ain't got no belts. But then the girls, the TNT title was on the line. Oh, Kyle, the IWGP World title was the four-way girls title. There was a girls title in that, wasn't there?
TBS, yeah.
Yes. And then the tag title, and then the unified title, Swerve versus Oblada. And the thing that I wrote, right as they were ringing the bell, I wrote, will this guy work for 18,000 people or still lay on his ass? And boy, howdy, he's still on his ass. He just can't do it, can he? Swerve was trying. Swerve was working hard. The fans like him. He had nothing to work with here. It's just, Stacy came in. And Brad, do you remember who that I said that I compared? This was months ago when Okada first showed up. Do you remember who I compared his work to? And you scoffed at me.
Oh, geez. I do not know.
You remember me saying it. You remember scoffing, but you don't remember who it was, I bet, don't you?
I remember you saying you think a Japanese Elon Musk. I don't remember a wrestling.
Well, no, that was a different time. I said physique-wise at his work, he reminds me of David Flair.
Oh, you did say that, yeah.
Well, and Stacy came in. This was a year ago I said that, right? Stacy walks in, sits down, watches this two left foot motherfucker for about 30 seconds and said, he reminds me of David Flair. Except David was trying. He was trying to work hard. So it's fascinating in a way watching this guy try not to do anything more than is absolutely necessary and barely that. But it's slow, it's boring. His shit is phony for the most part. He gave Swerve a DDT on the stairs, but when Swerve went over, he kicked the camera guy. Does that mean they're going to get another lawsuit? The fucking cameraman's a dangerous position around there. I zoned out for a while. It seemed like it went forever. There was some choreography, and at one point, Swerve climbed up to the top rope to help Okada drop his own knee on the top turnbuckle. And finally, Okada clothesline Swerve and beat him 1, 2, 3, clean, fair, right in the middle of the ring. And then he went crazy and put his knee between the stairs and the ring and hammered it with a chair. And goddamn, here came Nana running out because he couldn't be at ringside because that's not allowed in this particular kind of match. And he ran out with a lead pipe. But now, before we go any further, because it does go further, people are going to say, well, Swerve is really hurt, which he is. And he's going to have time off, which he is. So why shouldn't Okada beat him clean? Because he's a fucking heel. Why? What good does it do? Then Okada, besides the fact that he's unimpressive and looks like shit, but the unimpressive guy that looks like shit just beat one of your top baby faces without even cheating. And Swerve's going to come back eventually. So what the fuck? How does it help Okada to get any heat? Well, he just beat him. Then he takes him out there and breaks his fucking leg for no reason. And then, as Nana has run off the perpetrator with the lead pipe, here comes Wardlow. And Wardlow comes out from the crowd and gets in a ring and levels Nana and beats up Nana. Wardlow has just returned after a year and a half or whatever, and he looks like he ate goddamn the city of London. He's bursting the seams on every piece of his clothing, but he beats up Nana. And since Swerve only has one leg, he has to lay there and watch while Wardlow beats up Nana and then beats up security and hugs Don Fallis, who he joined the Fallis family. What the fuck was this? People have been wanting Wardlow back for all this time, but they debut a monster, whether a monster babyface or a monster heel, by beating up a manager after another heel has already done the damage to the top fucking star. What sense does this make? Brian, help me.
Oh, it doesn't. Also, when you're down on baby faces and you have someone who's one of your biggest baby faces for a time return, and they just become another guy in the Callis family, which is just a ramshackle group of people. Just random heels put together. Half of them don't do anything. Lance Archer's like a valet at this point. So yeah, it's questionable. And again, Swerve lost the match. And then for reasons we don't understand, he was attacked brutally. And then they did this angle there.
Well, to cover up, he's going to go have his knee worked on or whatever. But
right.
But
I'm not saying they didn't have to...
Yes, but they concocted no logical reason why that happened after he'd already beat the fucking guy.
And now we have heel Wardlow with Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, Lance Archer, Rocky Romero, Trent. Who else is in this fucking group?
Oh, but did you see when Take a Shit came out and stared at Wardlow? And you know, around here, when people stare at other people, that means something.
So what does that mean? They're going to turn Takeshita babyface?
I don't fucking know.
And who wants to see Takeshita versus Wardlow?
Nobody.
Welcome back, Wardlow. I thought it was just me. He looked a lot bigger. You said kind of what I was thinking.
No, and I don't mean bigger as in he's been doing nothing but training and eating tuna. I mean bigger as in he's on the gas and the carbs. He's thicker everywhere. Everything unhealthily looking thick.
And I see that's the problem, I think, too, when he started taking off his jacket and everything and doing the beatdown. I didn't think the beatdown looked good.
Well, no, he could hardly get the jacket off to begin with. His arms are so big, and then he's like somebody shoved an air hose up his ass and just blown him up like a parade float. Anyway, speaking of parade floats, the next match was a girls' match with, I don't know really why it just seemed good at the time, that transition. Toni Storm wrestled Athena. Brian, and Remember I said that I could fast forward and I'd see a little box where I could skip all the shit that I wanted to skip? This was one of the shits that I wanted to skip. Did I miss anything till I get to the finish?
Probably not. It went a little while, and apparently there are people who really like Athena, but I guess I just don't see what other people see in her.
Well, that's because you can't look down deep, Brian, and see a person's true value. Or you just don't give a shit. One of those things. Well, Billy Starks was going to hit Tony Storm with a chair, but Mina Mellon stopped her and they ran off. And then Tony Storm got a choke and Athena tapped out. Now Tony Storm's a goddamn member of the Gracie family. But now, Brian, I'll have you know it was time for another world title match. This one for the actual world title of the company that's promoting the pay-per-view, which was refreshing. The AEW world title, MJF versus Hangnail Adam Page. And unfortunately, MJF, the challenger in this, when he comes out, he was introduced as the CMLL World Champion. They just had the NJPW World Champion, and they just had the Unified Champion, and they just had the TNT Champion, and now another World Champion is going for another World Champion's World Championship. So anyhow, do they desperately need they need their world champion to be the top star in the company? And right now it's not. And even with Moxley, it wasn't. And I'm hard pressed to figure out who the top star is in the company anymore. That I would have said Ospreay needs to be the champion, but now since he's goddamn going to have surgery and be out for who knows how long or to what extent. Maybe it's good they didn't, but how long has it been since the world champion in this company was also the top guy on the roster? A while. I can't remember. Did Punk hold this belt at one point, or did he ever get there?
Yeah, no, I think he held it a couple times.
Okay.
Didn't he?
That would be the last time then that both the world champion has been the top star in the company. MJF is good. He needs something to work with. You've always got to do some of the other guys' shit, and Page does the same shit all the time. MJF, his aura has been diminished. His booking has been rotten. He doesn't have the heat he used to have. But he can still think to put some things together that make a little half-ass sense. But he always has to work with another one of these children. And this was back and forth. I can't go blow by blow on this because it got ridiculous. But amongst my observations, Page doesn't fight from underneath well. A babyface that can fight and sell and be an underdog and get sympathy. That's not he either he fights from underneath and the shit's weak, or he does too much and kills the fucking heat before the comeback, and his timing is off where he's either too quick or too slow. MJF has the facials, he shows personality, has the body language. Page is always scowling boo-boo face, and he does the same shit. He had to do the thing where he knocks MJF out on the floor, takes forever to climb to the top rope, doesn't even look backwards, backflips, and MJF has to stand there like an idiot and catch him. MJF's hammerlock DDT should be a finish because it looks better than most anything anybody does there. I don't even know if he's ever gotten a fucking win on TV with it. At one point, Page tombstones MJF on the floor, doesn't even try to win. He takes time to position the table. and pick MJF and deadeye MJF off the apron through the table, then roll him in the ring, cover 1, 2, and MJF gets his foot on the ropes. Now it's ridiculous. And, I know MJF knows he's going to get his money from this guy either way, the billionaire, but I'd rather not sit out a year and a half or 2 with a broken neck because of this idiot wants to do this goddamn hardcore bullshit. Certainly, I would not think that it was MJF's idea. Hey, give me a dead eye through the fucking table. Jesus Christ. And then they continue the match because that couldn't hurt anybody. Paige then gets very little color from 2 different places from being run into the post or whatever. And then MJF tombstoned him on the broken table. Or did they break a table on the floor? Yeah, no, they
it was already broken when he did the tombstone.
Yeah, they broke it with the dead eye. Then they left the broken one sitting there so they could use it again. They didn't get another table. And then, so that doesn't get the tombstone on the broken table by MJF. Paige gets back in the ring by the count of 10. So MJF pulls the buckle pad off and gets run head first into it 5 seconds later and gets a lot of juice. And the fans chant, "You deserve it." But again, he just got run into the fucking... Nothing can beat anyone. And then they tried to do a tombstone reversal that another match had already done earlier tonight, but Paige dropped him anyway. They did a spot actually that got the fans, and it was a good wrestling spot. The multiple cradles. Boom, 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 boom. Multiple cradles over and over. 1 count, 1 count, 1 count, 1 count. Then the double bridge, then the dead eye. In the ring, 2 count. That got the people. That's wrestling. But you can't be doing that after you've dead-eyed a motherfucker through a fucking table to the floor. And then suddenly you're doing goddamn Les Thornton reversals. And then MJF pulled the diamond ring out and set it on the mat and wanted Paige to hit him with it to get disqualified because he threatened to set Mark Briscoe on fire last week. Brian, as you'll recall, Paige agreed that the belt could change hands on disqualification. You remember that.
Right. He saved the life of Mark Briscoe.
And he also agreed to, MJF said he doesn't have to execute his contract. He still got the contract and all that stuff, and blah, blah, blah.
Correct.
So now he wants Paige to get disqualified. So Paige won't pick up the ring and hit him with it. So he spit on Paige. And Paige wants to hit him. And finally, he just spit back on MJF. So then MJF pushed Paige into the referee and then kicked him in the balls, gave him the heat seeker, covered him 1, 2. Paige gets his foot on the ropes. Referee counts 3, but the referee is still down and he didn't see the foot on the ropes. Okay, we've got a disputed decision here. What's going to happen? Mark Briscoe's music plays. Mark Briscoe starts coming down the aisle, but security stops him. He doesn't come to the ring to fucking tell the referee what happened, to restart it. He gets stopped by security, punches a couple of them, and they drag him out. Now we go back to the ring where MJF has just been staring at what Briscoe's doing. Paige's foot is still on the rope. MJF goes to move it, and the referee sees it before he can. Now it's been a minute and a half.
Can I tell you, that referee's been pissing me off. His stuff with MJF is over the top. The fact that he dove
it's
in.
Bad.
I see the leg now 2 minutes after it happened. That's ridiculous.
We're expected to believe Paige was unconscious and immobile for a minute and a half with his leg on a rope. Or if he was awake, then why would he go, hey, referee, look here, my foot's on a rope. God damn it. It would make sense if Briscoe had come out and stooged it off. but they dropped that ball. So then the referee shoves MJF into Page's clothesline. Page goes for a buckshot. MJF ducks it, and Mule kicks Page in the balls and schoolboys him and gets a 2 count. I'm like, what the fuck? Go home. His head isn't vulnerable. His balls aren't vulnerable. Nothing will beat anybody. And then MJF slid the belt in. The referee picked it up and immediately turned his back to hand it out. And MJF hits Page with the contract in the metal case. Cover. 2 count. Jesus, 30 minutes into this thing. MJF pulls out the ring and swings, and the referee catches it. But he doesn't disqualify MJF. He just catches the fist. And then when he gets the ring away, MJF turns around and Page hits MJF with the contract, which the case breaks. There's pages everywhere. Then he hits a dead eye and a buckshot. 1, 2, 3, and the referee's amidst the wreckage of the. Oh my God. It was better than most Adam Page matches, but geez, nothing can beat anybody. Page is just bland as fuck. And their finishes, they're too long and too busy are their finishes. That's basically my presumption of this.
31 minutes, 40 seconds.
Jesus Christ.
We'll maybe talk a little bit later. Tony had some comments about this contract and the future of people turning in a contract to get a title match during the media scrum. But we'll see what happens next. Obviously, there's unfinished business with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. Obviously, Adam Page,
is there? Or are they just going to forget about it?
Who knows? And obviously, Adam Page is indestructible, although incredibly boring at the same time. And that's that.
Well, are you ready for the main event, Brian?
Well, how could you not?
Main event of the evening.
Lights out.
Lights out, and boy, I wish I'd have had to watch it in the dark. The 10-man cage match extravaganza with Darby Allin, Tanahashi, Kenny, Ibushi, and Ospreay against the Hardley Boys, Dick the Boozer, Claudio, and Gabe Kidd, with Wheeler Useless and Marina Schaefer in the corner. And we already know that Ospreay this is his last match for however long, because he's going to have the neck surgery. And so he entered last for the baby faces with the career video and the hoopla. His girlfriend voiced over the video. And he's a hometown guy, a home country guy. He got a huge reaction. And from that kind of crowd, the Ospreay on the entrance was impressive. They could have had a year of this guy as their champion, but they bungled it from the start. He came in as a heel in the heel group, and then he just asked out, and they let him. And then all this just nonsense that he's been involved in. And now they've lost his services. And of course, being that this is a match where the indie guys can't get out of their own way, they're in a giant cage that surrounds all of ringside as well. But they've got ladders and tables set up around ringside inside the cage already set up. Marks. It's a theme here this week with wrestling. They're all marks. None of them are smart to the goddamn essence of the principle of the business. They're just marks. Want to do fun shit till they need spinal surgery. And they did a comedy entrance in a cage match, a lights out cage match. They do comedy with the Buckaroos not having their music. And then they played it, some song that was supposed to be their first ever music. The announcer said, like anybody would know what fucking music these two jabronis used 20 years ago on outlaw shows. What was that even? What was that music? Do you even remember?
I'm not sure, no.
There are flashes in the pan that got hot for an internet audience, and they've now presumed that they're household names. And their pan flashed out a while back. And then they just start. Then a crazy match inside the cage. They're on the floor. They're trading chops. Moxley's got a kendo stick. Ospreay does a dive. Darby does a dive. It's the greatest hits of all the stuff that they do. The Hardley Boys and Kenny and his buddy did their cheerleading. And for some reason, 3 minutes in, they did a spot where Darby and Moxley were handcuffed to each other, but Claudio broke the handcuffs. And then it was never a factor again. You've got heels outsmarting the baby faces, especially Kenny and Idushi. When they would try fancy shit, they'd get outsmarted. So that's psychologically ridiculous. And then Nikki, one of the buckaroos, goes to dump out a sack of thumbtacks, but they were gummy bears. That then Nick acted like he was scared to take a bump in. And Tony Schiavone's over there. Oh, this is wonderful. Shut the fuck up, Tony. It's not my fault you needed the money to have to do this fucking dreck. You're older than I am. You had a fucking background. Just admit it's shit. It's embarrassing. The heels hit people with the ladder and busted the side of Darby's head open, or I think they tore his earring out that he's stupid to wear into the goddamn matches. Because when they powerbombed him into the ladder and he sprung back off of it, he grabbed his ear real quick. It wasn't like a blow that would bust you open like a temple bone. It was like something got caught and ripped out of his ear. So that way later on, Moxley could stick his fork in it. Jesus Christ. Ospreay was trying to sell like a wrestler in the middle of this garbage at one point. And he'd get it going, but then they'd stop him and it'd be shits again. Nick bungled up a jump off the top rope. The Hardy Boys or Hardley Boys or Buckaroos or whatever beat up Ibushi. Tanahashi just disappeared, which was a blessing because the poor thing's so crippled he can't walk. Then they beat up Darby and duct taped him to a chair. And that's when Moxley gouged his bloody ear with a fork. I wrote in parentheses, I despise this garbage person, talking about Moxley. And then Claudio slammed Darby while he was taped to the chair. And then they pulled out a barbed wire covered table. But meanwhile, some of the stooges outside the cage had built a 2-story, 4-table double stack. Moxley bladed for the barbed wire. I wrote, this is so fake, stupid, and dangerous. Why get hurt for this trash? Moxley fell into the wire table. People dove. Then everybody stood around lost. It wouldn't end. Oh, that's when Ospreay climbed up to the top of the cage and backflipped off onto everybody. Well, he's having surgery already anyway, so what the fuck? And then Kenny and Kid started trading fake forearms so Kenny could make his faces. And a bunch of people did shit over and over. And then, let me see if I can describe this. Moxley climbs out of the cage with the help of Wheeler, but Darby goes up and climbs up and catches Wheeler, and Wheeler takes the bump onto the announce desk off the side of the cage. But then Darby got out of the cage. He climbed all the way out and went back down to the floor and beat Moxley with a kendo stick and laid Moxley on the first level of the tables. but went to the top of the cage so he could jump off, but Gabe Kidd nutted him, and Moxley moved, and Kidd and Darby just jumped off together to go through all 4 tables. And Gabe Kidd should be injured from the way it looked like he fell. That wasn't the end. Then there was more choreography at 100 miles an hour. And then Kenny and Ospreay hit Maddie with a good-looking double team. And like that could have been it. But then time stood still while Tanahashi drug his crippled ass to the top rope and took forever to balance and stood up tentatively and halfway splashed and halfway just fell forward and splashed him 1, 2, 3. They gave Tanahashi they can't even get their own goddamn talent over on some of their biggest shows because they have to insert these crippled motherfuckers.
It was like, you ever see footage of old man Mil Mascaris doing his high cross body and just like he falls off the rope? And he's about half his age.
So the baby faces won. Then everybody leaves Ospreay in the ring to get his ovation.
Fans seem happy. Fans are happy to give Ospreay his moment, knowing he'll be gone for a while.
They're singing for him. They're playing the music. And then I'm wait, what? I wrote, seriously, more heat? I heard some of the cable systems, they milked it long enough. Some of them went off the air. I don't know what percentage, but some went off the air before they got to this. But the heels got on Ospreay and locked him inside the cage. Now the rest of the baby faces are out of the cage. They've locked him inside the cage. And they beat the shit out of him with the repeated DDTs. And Marina Schaefer climbs the cage to get in. As she's in, all the baby faces are standing out there, plus Joe and Hobbs and Shapoopy. And Moxley puts the chair around Ospreay's neck and stomps it. Everybody, a minute ago, even the girls were climbing the cage willy-nilly. Now nobody can climb the cage. They're screaming, raise the cage, raise the cage. We just literally saw 4 or 5 people climb up and over and out of the cage. Why can't they go the other way?
Why can't it just be raised?
Well, when it finally was
Ole Anderson controlling the remote control for the cage? Like
no, the Black Scorpion who had it. But no, when they did raise the cage, the heels just scurried away and the baby faces didn't do anything. This sort of, maybe they all trained at Knox Pro Wrestling because they didn't do shit to help their friend. Because now Ospreay's going to be out. Swerve's going to be out. Other people are out. Maybe MVP's out. Maybe the Hurt business is out. Maybe they're out of business. Maybe they got disgusted and just said, fuck it, we're leaving.
Even if Ospreay's hurt and going to be out for a while, this seemed like a bad way to end the show for the people there. It took the heart out of the room, it seemed like.
Yes, because you can't blame the heels. He's already told people he's going to have neck surgery. He said, I'm going under the scalpel after this, and I don't know if I'll be the same, but I'm going to leave it all in the ring. So he should have goddamn got the pin. He got his hand raised in front of his home audience and got the thank you. That's what they came to do. You don't need to have somebody attack the guy and drop him on his head 15 times when they've already said he's got a hurt neck. How much more hurt does it have to be? Everything doesn't. That's Tony, because of Tony's condition, whatever that may be. Whenever they have the ability to scan brains and find out exactly what causes things, Tony thinks there has to be some storyline reason for shit, even when people already know the real story. And the only reason there was ever a storyline reason to cover for injuries is if people didn't know the real goddamn story. Oh shit, I got to have surgery. It's just popped up. Let's do an angle. Give me a pile driver. Not, oh God, I've got to have surgery. I'm telling the world I'm going to have surgery. And then the heel comes out and gives me a pile driver. The fuck? I've got a cramp again.
Well, Jim, that was AEW Forbidden Door 2025. They'll be returning to Wembley Stadium next year to build upon the amazing groundswell support they've received from the London fans. But Jim, perhaps you're a fan of good professional wrestling, angles that aren't insulting, promos that are good and feel natural, guys who can work without going to a yay boo spot at the end of their match. I'm so sick of that. Perhaps you just want to sue.
Oh, well, perhaps if you do want to sue, then I know for you the right person that will do the job that you need him to do. And that is this man. Play the music.
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. He'll sue the rest.
Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The law office of Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com. 877-50-STEVE is going to be knocking on the door of whoever has perpetrated the sin against you, whether it be unlawful termination, irresponsible negligence. As a matter of fact, speaking of irresponsible negligence, I know that the wrestling community, even all the way out there in California, they got to know about the legend of Stephen P. New. You think Stephen P. New is going to be driving Rikishi's Cadillac next year? Maybe just a thought. Nevertheless, that's who you need to go to, folks. If somebody wrongs you, make it right with Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. More updates on Stephen P. New's legal wrangling in a variety of cases involving us that you folks know about in the weeks to come.
That's right. Get even with Stephen, newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE. But Jim, before we wrap things up and get out of here, we have a few little bits of audio. We'll be back to the normal drive-thru next week with guest of program questions, music, and so much more.
Yeah, as long as there's no attempted murders making the news or things like that, or crazy situations that we have to weigh in on. We'd rather be talking about the fun stuff instead of the outlaw mud show bullshit. But here we were this weekend.
I hit the wrong note, and I guess maybe that's kind of fitting.
Par for the course.
Jim, we have a little bit of audio, not too much, but a little bit. We're going to start with some Tony Khan audio. We'll end with some audio about Tony Khan. But to follow up on something you mentioned during the review of the MJF Adam Page match, MJF won a contract. What was it? The Casino Gauntlet?
Yes.
Was that what it was? The Casino Gauntlet?
Yeah, I think isn't it? Well, I guess that's it, but it's their version of the Money in the Bank where you can cash the contract in, for a guaranteed title shot.
That's right. I guess that's the best way to say it. Their version of Money in the Bank. Here's Tony Khan talking to the wrestling media or whoever's in that room about their Money in the Bank.
It's so great to see all of you. And before I start answering your questions, I have some questions for all of you, if it's okay, if you would indulge me. And I want your honest feedback because I really care about talking. I care about talking to people who love wrestling. I care about talking to the fans, and I understand you're working media. You're not necessarily here as fans. But if you would lend me your honest opinions, I don't want you to BS me. I want to hear what you really think. I want fan feedback.
Oh, boy.
Do you think for a company that takes pride in its champions, that takes pride in the sport of pro wrestling, I really care about the integrity of the promotion and the championships. Do you think that the way MJF has conducted himself in recent weeks at trying to verbally execute and then renege on an execute. I don't think that's how a championship
What is he saying?
or somebody who
He's asking a question of the assembled media there. He has a question for them, but he wants them to think of it as fans, even though they're as media.
He doesn't care if they hurt his feelings. He wants to know their real opinions, and then he goes into goddamn the storyline.
I like when he stopped himself on the way to say, I care about talking to fans. He just said, I care about talking. And I think that was really apropos considering. But let's
all right. Keep going.
Tony
Go
Khan.
ahead.
who has been potentially could be a great champion should conduct himself. I don't think that's in the spirit of the contract executions. How do you feel? Do you agree with that?
Let's strip him of it.
Oh,
No.
oh.
Sorry.
What in the world?
What do you think?
Trying to contribute.
What do you?
That's Renee. She's now like the sidekick during the scrums, I guess, to kind of get Tony to behave or as best as possible. Kind of like her traveling around with her husband.
Interpret into English, possibly.
Maybe, but she's there to supervise things, and she chimes in every now and then.
Do you think? I don't think that's in the spirit of the sport. I would be interested to hear feedback. Is there anybody that yes? What do you think?
Well, let's stop it there for a second. Jim, what are your thoughts on a wrestling promoter asking for feedback about one of his gimmicks that he has booked from the assembled media?
It doesn't make any sense because he said, now I want to know, don't BS me. I want to know your real opinion, like he would be treading on hurting his feelings. How do you think MJF's been conducting himself? Well, what difference if they say, no, he's been a complete prick? I think you got to take the whole thing away from him. How is that? Why would you need to soft soap that to the promoter? I don't understand what he's doing.
Well, maybe he'll clarify for you. Hold on. Here's whoever he solicited a question from or an answer from.
You think I should?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's what I think. I think that I want AEW to be different. And I've been listening to the feedback and the voice of the fans. And I think people want the championships in the sport of pro wrestling to have integrity. We're having the best year in the history of AEW. And I think a lot of it is that we're willing to listen to the fans, that we care about the sport, and we want the fans to believe in what we're doing. I think it's really important that when we have a contract execution and the integrity of the championship, that we can maintain the dignity of the sport. I also think it's very, very important to...
You know, it's almost like he wants to be a kayfabe Sam Mushnick or something. Like, I'm here to protect the business. Well, but then he goes back into kayfabe.
The integrity and the credibility and the professional... Where was that when the other night the guy poured gasoline over the guy's head and threatened to set him on fire? Where was that when they did the flamethrower angle or the blood drinking angle? He's talking about the execution of a contract that they win in a fucking battle royal having more of an effect on the integrity and the credibility and the forthrightness of pro wrestling than any of this outlaw bullshit that Moxley's been doing as his world champion for the past 6 months.
That night, that was the night of the ear stabbing.
Yes, what is...
Well, a little bit more on this.
I'm telling you, some machine needs to scan the brain.
Let's go back to the brain scanner.
Promote championship matches. I don't want to have a big ticket championship match that we are unable to advertise. And also, I don't really want to necessarily utilize a stipulation here that's being utilized other places. I'm not trying to duplicate what other people is doing. I really believe we are our own promotion. That's why going forward, I want to set the tone that from now on, I think the right thing to do is all contract executions should be on at least a week's notice so we can properly promote the matches, so that we can properly give the fans notice.
He's worried now about properly promoting the matches
and have the integrity of a championship match. And I think it's for the best for us. I think it's for the best for our media partners and for the integrity of the championship, if that makes sense. Wow.
I love a plan.
Great. Thank you.
I love a plan. I love a schedule.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Thank you. And going forward, that's what we're going to do. And I really appreciate your giving me that opportunity to kind of take your temperature on it. I think it's the right thing to do.
Take your temperature on it. Nobody said a goddamn peep. They didn't say boo to a goose, as Adrian Street would say.
The only person that said anything was his Ed McMahon, which is...
Yeah, you are correct, sir. Yes,
Tony,
sir.
you're so great,
yes,
Tony.
Sir.
Well, what are your thoughts to try to get some of this to get somewhere.
Basically, nobody can cash in now on a moment's notice when the champion is down. You've got to give them a week's advance notice, which kind of kills the whole idea of having a title shot anytime you want it. That's the fucking hook on the whole thing. But does it matter? Does any of this matter in AEW? It's all gibberish. What title? Everybody's got one. Some people got several. When Dustin Rhodes had surgery, they had to have 4 different tournaments.
Well, what do you think about the idea that they're doing a Money in the Bank contract kind of thing, but they want to differentiate themselves from the exact idea they took?
Well, yes, they want to steal the idea and then do it differently, but they're cutting out probably the best thing about the goddamn deal that they took. So I don't do it.
Well, Jim, a lot of questions have been asked in the past and in the present, and a lot of times here on this show, about the creative process in AEW. How does whatever gets on the air get on the air? Who comes up with these ideas?
And then how many people decide to quit breathing it?
Is the page horizontal or vertical? There's a lot of questions we have asked.
The columns.
There's a lot here, so we'll break this down. Here's Tony Khan talking about the creative process.
Oh, boy.
A really quick follow-up is
Please.
on the creative process. In the past 12 months since you were in London last, our listeners, I think, are noticing more vignettes, more character building in the mid-card, more long-term storytelling.
And let me just say, Tony's nodding with a big smile on his face. As
Yes,
all these
yes,
things are
because
being
he
said.
loves all those things that people say he does, and somehow they overlook the fact that they don't do these things. But nevertheless,
there been a shift in your process at all?
I've talked about it a little bit.
talk about it some more.
With the best of intentions, last year went out there and I tried to get really collaborative. And I said, let's all do a lot of Zooms. And I want to hear everybody's ideas. And I'm going to take every suggestion. I'm going to I'll try to take your idea and maybe I'll take your idea. And it's a lot different than how I did the show, especially in the pandemic. I was looking back. Kenny went out there. I was saying to Nakazawa, I was like, man, it's a lot different than when you guys were wrestling in front of 3 people in the pandemic in QT school in Georgia against the best friends. And, a lot different than the Kenny and Alan Angels match in front of 3 people to be out here in front of the biggest crowd ever in this building and one of the biggest crowds in AEW history. We've come like a really long way, but also.
Well, Jim, let me jump in and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a moment, but.
Why is he going back to the pandemic and wrestling in front of 3 people in QT school to have anything to do with the creative?
He's talking about his history as a booker, and he now has 6 years of history as the lead booker.
Goddamn, he was born a poor black child in a log cabin in Mississippi. How much history to answer a direct question do we need? Can he ever just get to the fucking point? That's my question.
And we've seen these WWE Unreal episodes with their creative process. What do you think of the idea that he's jumping on Zoom calls with everyone? He wants everyone's idea. Everyone's submitting ideas to Tony on Zoom.
Well, it's nothing but excesses in every direction here because, of course, it's gibberish. That's what we said at the time. It looks like they're just doing this segment by segment. Everybody's in business for themselves. You can't let everybody do everything they want to do. Can have Zooms with 25 people, but you can't just then say, no, I'm just going to do what I want to do when the person that's saying that doesn't know what the fuck they're doing. Because then you get what we've been getting. So it's either a goddamn mess of everything possible, everywhere, all at once, all the time, or it's endless same shit that Tony does with his brain condition that makes sense to him with all of this 26 people running into a goddamn never-ending angle. It neither one is preferable.
Let's go back to the never-ending answer. Here's Tony Khan.
Had a process that was pretty great in Jacksonville. And I realized as we were going into this year, I had a realization, and it was a lot like the realization that I came to when I first started using that process. That process I used in Jacksonville and really in 2020 was a lot different than I would have done in 2019. In 2019, I was also a big committees and meetings guy. And then in 2020, I kind of famously have said, hey, Christmas, I went home and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start putting the shows together at home. And then people in 2020 really liked it. But what I didn't count on is the pandemic would hit. I would be the only person in gorilla for months. And I would be a one-man gorilla, which is what happened. And if you look at those shows that I talked about, I'm the only person backstage. There was, because we shut down the backstage, so there was only one person doing everything back.
Let me stop this for a moment. Obviously, he's got a lot to say about the creative process and the road to getting here, revealing a lot of things from the past. If you were the Young Bucks, or Omega, or Cody Rhodes, or Brandy Rhodes, forget about any feelings about them or what kind of content they like. Just being them, feeling like you were a part of the start of this company. And you're a couple months in, right? When did they start? October? I forget when they started.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, you're a few months in, and you're all kind of getting to do your version, your vision of wrestling on this show. And the audience hasn't run off yet. There's people watching your vision of wrestling. All of a sudden, Tony comes back in. Guys, I was thinking about it over Christmas. I'm just going to do it all myself and write all the shows myself.
I mean, that's... Again, after a couple of phone conversations with Tony long before that, I realized this guy has too much energy. He's convinced he knows what he's doing, and he ain't never going to listen. Or if he does listen, it'll be to Gaga, considering who he wants to work with. I can imagine being one of the indie-minded guys that had the patience to sit through Tony's energy to get my stunt approved or my, thing that I had. But I can't imagine being somebody that actually knows anything about how wrestling shows put together and being able to suffer Tony's enthusiastic presence for very long. I just can't.
Let's go back to Mr. Enthusiasm.
There. And people thought it was like the best AEW yet. So and then
all the people he talked to.
All the people he talked to agreed that his booking was the best
that he pays or are just mindless indie wrestling fans.
And it was like, that's a pretty good process. I still want to hear everyone's ideas, but I'll come in with an outline. And then I want to talk and say, okay, here's my outline. Here's what I think we should do. And there's more people than there were at that point. And there's more people to bounce ideas off of. And I think it's really worked really well this year. So I kind of came in Christmas of this year, Christmas 2024, this past year. And I had like the same look in a mirror conversation I had with myself exactly 5 years earlier. Because
he's looking in the mirror having these conversations, Jim. What do you think of these look in the mirror conversations about the booking of AEW and the end results?
I tell you, the lines on the mirror, lines on her face. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Are they funny mirrors that tell you you're good at booking?
Yeah, maybe the Funhouse mirror can make him a little bit bigger in the middle.
Coincidentally enough, my father just bought Coney Island. I've got all these mirrors in my house.
Because I wasn't really happy with the way the December 18th, 2019 Dynamite ended in Texas. And then we took a week off. And I said, you know what, January 1st, I'm going to make sure we do the best show we've ever done to this point. And we did. At that point, that was the best. January 1st, 2020, at that point, was the best episode of Dynamite.
How long is it going to take him to cover the next 5.5 years here?
This was a simple question, but he's going over the history here of the AEW creative process from his perspective.
Do I need to shave?
It was the most complete, best episode of wrestling television we had done. And then I said, we never look back. And ironically, then the next week I did something that in January 8th in the Rio Chris Statlander match that I was like, I knew, I told myself in Christmas 2020, Christmas 2019, I was like, in 2020, I'm not going to do anything I don't believe in. 2020 is like the year to just trust your instincts. And if you don't really feel good about something, don't do it. And then week 2.
Hold on one second. He's saying trust your instincts 6 months into being a promoter. A year into being a promoter. Trust your instincts. Of course. Yeah, just go. He had
it all figured out before they started. That was the thing. That's why there was no question in his mind that all this was going to work.
It was like a diet I cheated on. And I made it to January 8th. And then after that, I was like, that was it. That was exactly what you told yourself you weren't going to do. Don't do that for the rest of the year. And I didn't. And And we tightened up and we did so well and came together. But I also thought, like, it's a good process and it's good to hear people's ideas, but it's probably better to put the outline together and then talk to everybody versus like having 86 people throwing in ideas. You know, probably the worst episode of Seinfeld they ever did is the second to last episode, which was really the finale for all the writers besides Larry David. So they all tried to get one or two jokes in, and it turned into the worst episode they ever did, and also is the one that had the most writers. So
let me stop it there. There's a whole lot there. Again, him being the arbiter of everyone else's creative and everyone else's ideas, comparing the committee process of listening to other people's ideas to the second to last episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah, he's got the same quality writing talent on his Zooms from Cucamonga as they did for Seinfeld, but it's still, you know, there's too many cooks spoil the broth, Brian.
The self-awareness of a Kenny Benya.
Is he going to get to a period anytime soon? Is what I'm asking you. Put a period on this.
It's a better process this year, but also I give most of the credit to all the credit really should go to the wrestlers and the fans, because this year the level of wrestling on the show has been the best it's ever been. I think the support we've gotten from the network is the best it's ever been. The backstage talent, everybody, whether it's people working in production that you never see, or the announcers, or both people who do both, like Renee, who's in production and on screen, everybody's just stepped up. We're having a really, really good year. Also, we've been really fortunate to have up to this point a very healthy roster of great stars. I gave a very detailed answer.
Let me stop there. Up to this point, a very healthy roster.
Yeah, we just lost our two biggest baby faces tonight, the same show, but up to this point, they've been healthy.
Up to this point, minus Danielson, Omega, Punk went down when he was there. Every single person has gone down.
About what I think's been happening.
Even
with
Renee.
In AEW, and it would be hard to be more intricate and detailed than what I just did, but to give a thorough accounting of it, I think that it would be safe to say that the roster have stepped up and delivered week to week to week as much as ever before. And I think it's incredible. And we were really fortunate. We had some stars that were away from us last year for different reasons, some due to injuries, some due to filming projects, and they all kind of came back and the stars aligned. All in Texas is one of the great successes for the company. And
does he even remember the question he was asked? I can't take much more of this. I'm trying
to get somewhere with, there has to be something in here. Hold on. There has to be.
That it set a high standard coming here. To follow a show like that and to come here and to be able to set a new milestone, to set, sell a lot of tickets and also have a pretty similar live gate, but also follow up our run of business in London, and also to have the feeling back here that we have that just we're doing so great, and I talked about our great women's champions and women's stars. I think, of course, I referred earlier to MJF, and even if I don't agree with his tactics, and even
one of the top women's stars,
work overtime.
Well, hold on, he's just now running through everything. I mean,
yes, what?
I feel like he has more to say, but I'm even looking through Jace's notes. He starts rambling about MJF, Adam Page, and Moxley, and then just fluffing himself up. So, I think we may have heard enough of Tony. Any thoughts on the fact that every single scrum we have heard audio from, and again, we're going back 6 years now, everything is the greatest it's ever been. Everything is the best it's ever been. It's not even just about saying everything in the moment is great, but now there's stuff to build on. When you say everything's great when you first start, okay, they think this is great. But if they thought that was great, how is this great? How is this greater than that?
Well, more importantly, what the fuck? I don't expect anybody running a press event for any company to come out and lead with, boy, we really fucked this thing up and we're the shit's here and this sucks. No, you're supposed to tell people you're doing well, but endlessly, without periods or punctuation, droning on, citing specific episodes of TV from 5 years ago that nobody fucking remembers. never getting to a point. Just the constant self-fellatio that old Jay was referring to momentarily ago, where he just talks about, oh, I did this and I did that and I did the other thing. Yes, you've spent $500 million to get a wrestling promotion to a point where it looks like you spent $100 million. But the idea that he genuinely believes that this is the greatest wrestling product that has ever been put on the planet is admirable. He's got confidence, but it's also crazy.
And also, he would have to be the greatest booker of all time to have 6 years straight of great stuff and not be burned out at all.
Yes. And how do you tell the stuff from, he keeps saying, well, we did this a different way, we did that a different way, we got different results. This shit has looked pretty much the same from day one, hadn't it? Can you tell? There's been moments. Early Punk gave him a few moments.
There were fans.
MJF before he had his nuts cut off.
In the early days, they actually had full buildings, and it had an energy. You almost felt like, okay, something could happen.
And for the past however long, it's been the same shit every week, over and over for the same people, except the audience dwindles over time. So I'm glad that they just love what they're doing, but to act like that this is in any way really wonderfully structured shit when it's just haphazard chaos, I'm sorry. I bow out now with that statement.
Do you think this is the best year of AEW TV? It's a crazy question, I know. But
I can't see in any way in the world how they think it is, because they had more viewers and bigger stars a couple of years ago. But they've done everything. You can't do anything different. Nothing works against anybody. Nothing hurts anybody except when they really need surgery, and then they just run over them with a truck and you don't see them for 6 months. But it's all the same. The more you see of it, the harder it's going to be for them to keep doing shit, because people are getting tired of it because there's no difference. You can't differentiate one show from the next because it's just endless mayhem and run-ins.
Well, that's all the Tony Khan audio we're going to play here. At another point, well, he said plenty of other wacky things, but Jim, a little more audio here regarding Tony Khan, and then we're going to get out of here. We ran a little long today. This is apparently something being released as we are recording. A ton of listeners have already sent it over. It's from an interview with Chris Van Vliet. Jake Hager appeared on his show.
Oh, good Lord.
Let's review some audio here. We'll break it up a few times. We have not heard a peep from Jake Hager, maybe ever. So let's hear what he has to say.
So when did you stop loving what you were doing there, or just loving wrestling in general?
It was right after we did the Vegas, was that the Stadium Stampede? No, it was like the second Blood and Guts. The second Blood and Guts we did in Vegas, and it was against Daniel Bryan and Cesaro and those guys, and then Sammy jumped off the cage. My first contract with AEW was up, and after that, we were like the negotiation process was very one way, and I could tell that. Well, anyways, I always find a way to say this every day, so I think everyone should too. Say "fuck Tony Khan." I could tell that he didn't want me there. He offered me like a year and a half.
Let me stop it there for a second. Again, there's a lot more here for a few minutes. We were not necessarily proponents of Jake Hager. We didn't really see whether it's the way he was used or just what he brought to the table.
It was both. It was both. Yeah.
But here he is saying that he was negotiating, and it wasn't, we won't bring you back, but as he said, it was a one-sided thing. We'll give you this, accept this or nothing. Is AEW wrong in any of that in your eyes so far?
What with Jake Hager, here's the thing. What did he ever do What did he ever contribute? What great Jake Hager promo was there ever given that people talk about? What great match did he have? What memorable angle was he in? He was a friend of somebody that they got
Jericho.
They got Tony to sign Jericho. Okay, he got Tony to sign him from the start, and he'd been there at that point for a couple years and had done little of anything. And with what the product that I was seeing on screen, Jake Hager should have been happy that a billionaire wanted to offer him a contract for 18 months. Because I would have said, okay, we'll see you later because I'm wasting money. There's nothing here. So that Tony offered him anything, I'm on Tony's side on that. Because my response would have been, why the fuck are you on this roster? But that's just me.
And remember, we said at the very beginning when everything was lovey-dovey, and he was there. He debuted on the first Dynamite, if you remember. One day the stories are going to start coming out. One day these guys are not going to respect and love Tony Khan as much as they do right now, here at the beginning. And I think we're starting to see that. Let's go back to Jake Hager's talk with Chris Van Vliet.
Like, bro, I just did Stadium Stampede twice. Like, don't act like Stadium Stampede didn't put AEW on the map. I was in the debut episode. I was the big spoiler, and you offer me 18 months after all that. So it was that and the way that he started running the business that it really, like, he wasn't a professional. Like,
let me stop it there for a second. 18-month contract. Any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, again, why would you sign the guy at all, to be honest, with what he was doing? And even if he could do more, but they hadn't booked him to do more, well, that's the fault of the guy that Tony just said he was writing the shows. So he said, I'll give you an 18-month contract for whatever he was overpaying Hager to do, which was nothing. Again, I don't have any sympathy for this guy. Now, both of these things can be true. Hager can be useless and Tony can be unprofessional. It's a cluster. It's inexperienced people who aren't particularly good at what they're trying to do, coming together to try to work together.
There's some more audio from Jake Hager's conversation with Chris Van Vliet.
We, like, after all the Punk shit that went down, the boys got together and we had a meeting, and this was the boys only, no office. All right. And we're all like Sting's in there, Show, Jericho, Bryan, Mox, they're all standing at the front, kind of like talking us through this shit. And lo and behold, who comes into the room storming in? Daddy's little billionaire. And he's like yelling at us because I think it was Dax and Cash and Wheeler didn't want to come in.
Cash and Wheeler
storyline, so they refused to come to TV that day. And he was like, listen, I'll put you in a 6-man 6 minutes before the show and you're gonna do it. And we're all just like, all feeling disrespected. And I still to this day wish I would have stood up and said,
oh, let me stop this for a second.
Hold on.
There's a whole lot here. Yeah.
Degenerating into gibberish. I'm not aware, and it would have been news, and it would have been reported. Did Cash and Dax, or Cash and Wheeler, as he said, did they ever no-show a TV taping? That's number one. Have we ever heard of Tony rushing in anywhere and screaming at people, since he never seems to want to yell at people before? But what does it mean? I'll put you all in a 6-man tag for 6 minutes. What? I don't even understand what this guy is.
Before we even get there, in terms of a wrestlers only meeting, a locker room meeting, no office, how often does that happen? And what would happen if all of a sudden the boss just stormed in and started yelling at everyone about something kind of off topic from what you guys are talking about? If this was after the Punk thing, and after there's a big fight amongst executives in the locker room and CM Punk, and this is kind of like, all right, team, we got to do what we can in this weird Dirty Dozen kind of fucking team they got going on over there. But if that's what this is, and all of a sudden Tony storms in and goes, I'll book you however I fucking want to book you. What does that do?
Well, it wasn't a talent-only meeting anyway, because didn't he say Danielson was there, and Danielson was on the disciplinary committee?
Not yet. That was before there was a disciplinary committee.
Oh, I forgot. That's right. Well, it was all the guys whispering to Tony, conducting a meeting to try to settle all the guys down or whatever. There was still, Tony was going to hear everything that happened in the meeting, obviously. And Hager doesn't sound to me, I'm sorry, but I don't honestly believe him, because he sounded like he was hemming and hawing and trying to figure out where he was going next. If he's predicating this thing on, you need to believe me because I was such a valuable commodity, I think he's full of shit to begin with.
Well, let's hear more about his thoughts when Tony Khan stormed into the meeting.
Said, a lot of things, but like, you just told Sting that you're going to put him in a 6-man in 6 minutes, but then you're going to honor him for his retirement. We became his little playthings. We had to wait outside his office. His storylines were very good at debuting, but he could never carry anything through. And it got to the point where I'm carrying on, but it got to the point where I couldn't tell him anything. He couldn't take criticism. He was fucking up, and we were all just having to deal with it. Like, we all had blood, sweat, and tears put into that company. We were all there at the beginning. Like, we all had our careers behind us that helped build that company. And then we all had to just sit side by side and couldn't do anything because he wanted to run it the way he wanted to run it.
So you chose to resign.
Well, that's the end right there. That question. You chose to resign.
You chose to resign. Well, because who else is going to give me however many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year? It's another example of both of these things can be true in some respects. Jake Hager is not a guy that's very smart to the wrestling business, I don't think. And I don't think he's very good. But it's the same point. Even if he is not that quick on the uptake, he's repeating a lot of the sentiments there that a lot of the guys had at the time they were bitching about in the locker room that, that they couldn't tell Tony because he'd get his feelings hurt. All of these things were happening.
This is Chris Jericho's friend saying all of a sudden Tony Khan didn't want to hear everyone's ideas. Who's really saying that?
Well, and can you imagine what some of those ideas were? Says that it's not like there's a big baby face in any of this program.
Apparently, he's not happy that Tony Khan, I'm reading some comments here about other parts of this. We don't have any other audio. He was not happy that Tony Khan didn't take advantage of how over he got with his hat.
Oh, Christ.
And talking about how he likes his hat. He wanted to do a character who would only say that phrase for no matter what the question was. He would say, I like this hat. And his friends would understand him. Maybe Tony wasn't the worst booker in the room. But what do you think? One last thing about all this. What do you think?
I think he ought to shit in the hat and cover it up with another one and see what happens.
You think we're going to see a lot more of this? Whether right or wrong, whether they're disgruntled because they weren't re-signed to a big contract or not? Are we going to see a lot more people talking about the conditions in AEW at least a few years back, if not current?
Yeah, well, look, if you have a bunch of delinquent children in a fucking class and the teacher doesn't have any control over it, then are the kids going to leave the class and talk about how, we took advantage of her? And no, they're talking about, she's a lousy teacher. But they're also delinquent children. There's no structure. There's no fucking administration. There's no hierarchy. They're just indie wrestling with multi-millions of dollars.
Well, we will stay on top of the antics of AEW and their former wrestlers and their current wrestlers and the injuries to their wrestlers and so much more. But with that, Jim, this special review-heavy edition of the Drive-Thru is closed. I'm looking for my... Where is...
You mean I can go ahead and make my burgers for our cookout now with the in-laws?
I can't find the usual one, so I'll go with this. All right. We'll be back in a few days on The Experience, and of course, next week back here on the Drive-Thru. Your questions and so much more, CornyDriveThru@gmail.com. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, full episodes, clips of episodes in English, and omnibus collections. Just go to YouTube and search for Jim Cornette and subscribe today. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Patreon.com/Cornette. $5 a month gets you access to the archive going back to 2013. Patreon.com/Cornette. Cornette's collectibles at JimCornette.com. What's going on, Jim?
Things are on sale at JimCornette.com.
At JimCornette.com. Of course, the Drive-Thru is brought to you by the law office of Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. The wrestling news each and every day, wherever you find your favorite podcast, or directly from thewrestlingnews.com. For Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!